Welcome into Boxing Scene today, our continued coverage of Canelo Crawford, a huge fight week. That's where you get all your huge fight news is right here. Any comments, questions, concerns, don't forget, hashtag Boxing Scene today. Let us know what you want us to talk about, and we might just dive in. Now, I'm going to introduce the champs, of course. With me, Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, and I'm going to blame them a little bit for, kind of making Crawford sound like he might be out of shape because the champ released a video that said he is not out of shape. And I just want to know, it wasn't me, champ. It was these guys. Roll it.
I did not.
You did. Gentlemen, I don't know what you consider shredded, what you consider, swole, but you could do some washing on those abs. Yeah. I don't know why you were going after the champ that way, Paulie.
Throw me under the bus like that, Jimmy. I would have never expected that. But you know what? I'll tell you what. I had said that, yesterday we had that discussion about when you're pumped post-workout, right? You're a little thicker overall, but when you have that pump post-workout, you look more ripped. And then when the pump goes away, maybe it's not post-workout or it's later in the day or even before the workout, you look just a little thicker in general, right? So it can go in both directions in that regard. I think that, you're going to see an in-shape Crawford. You're going to see a prepared Crawford. But the discussion still remains, does carrying the extra weight affect him as the fight wears on? It's still a discussion that has to be had because we've never, all of us in general that fight or have fought understand that, a lot of times when we're in the gym carrying extra weight sparring, it fatigues us more as the rounds progress. So that if you go into a fight, there's a reason you make your weight class. Now you're carrying around this weight, which is not your weight class. And so it has to be a discussion point. Obviously Crawford is there to let us know that he's in shape and he's ready and all that other stuff. But as media pundits, we have to have that discussion. It's a topic point. It's a talking point on fight week, right? Like, will the extra weight, no matter if he's in shape or not, will it affect his ability to not fatigue, his endurance, so on and so forth? In some regards, it does, right? I mean, in some regards, you have the smaller guy who can't make it happen, was it Robinson against Maxim? Yep. He fell apart late. Yeah, it was the heat and all that other stuff. But also,
light heavyweight division.
Also, he's carrying around extra weight. Maxim is able to withstand. It's his weight as the fight wears on and he wears out. He's carrying around extra weight. It's wearing him out. Obviously, the heat didn't help Robinson in that fight. But then you also have another example, which can be to the side of Crawford, and that's Roy Jones against John Ruiz. People are going to say, Canelo's not John Ruiz. Dude, Canelo's 175 years old. He's John Ruiz at this point. All right, buddy? And actually, he may not even be at the level of John was at that point. Because John was still winning some very tough fights at that point. And Roy put on the weight. And Roy added the weight. Go ahead. Go ahead. Dude, you can't give me the defense when he fights cab drivers constantly. I'm sorry. We don't know where Canelo's at. There's the constant cab driver opposition.
Dude, you're saying he's basically John Ruiz.
At this point.
No shade on John Ruiz.
At this point.
I like John Ruiz.
At this point. Actually, he's not even John Ruiz. Because John Ruiz was beating better fighters.
That's crazy.
John Ruiz was beating better. Look at the resume. John Ruiz going into the
Roy Jones fight. He beat 150-year-old Evander Holyfield.
He beat 150-year-old Evander Holyfield. That was 3 years before he fought Roy. He was beating Kirk Johnson. He was beating Andrew Galata. He was beating Freza Kendo. He was beating those. Look at the resume. John Ruiz going into the Roy Jones fight. John Ruiz's resume going right before the Roy Jones fight was better than what Canelo's been fighting going into the Canelo Crawford fight. Canelo has been fighting Berlanga, Munguia. Both got starched in their very next fight, okay, by subpar opposition. Okay, actually, Shiraz, I can't say subpar opposition. Shiraz is still on the rise. Nonetheless, high look like they didn't belong in the ring in the next fight, right? So go back, look at the resume, make my point. Go back, look at John Ruiz's resume.
He didn't
I'm not talking about the Canelo. I'm not talking about the Canelo from.
You're doing that thing where it's like, this guy stopped and this guy didn't stop him, so he's old. No, he dominated them. It's not like it was completely outclassing those guys.
Who, Canelo?
Munguia and Berlanga. He outclassed both of them. They didn't look like you said.
They were cab drivers. Is what I'm saying. Who cares?
Finishing guys anymore.
Get me the guy who works next door, stocks the truck. I'll dominate him too. What does that mean for me, though? Does that mean anything for me? That means absolutely nothing. When there are legitimate, vibrant
you're letting your
out
personal
there.
bias
No, it's
bleed
not personal
into
bias.
this. You're letting your
If they
personal
were the
bias
best
bleed
available
into this.
contenders and he was doing that, I'd say, you know what? Bro, he's beating the best available contenders. They were not the best available contenders. They were subpar in comparison to what was available. And if you're a champion, you're not supposed to fight subpar in comparison to what's available. You have to compare it to what's available at a high level. If those guys were the best available contenders and Canelo did that, I'd say, you know what? That's what's out there. He's beating them. No, it's not what's out there. He's avoiding what's out there and then taking this on. Ruiz, if you look at his resume, was taking on some high-level heavyweights going into the Roy Jones fight. Roy Ruiz was not pleasing to the optics, but he knew how to win. And Roy still dominated him. Going back, Roy still dominated him. He chose to fight a light heavyweight.
At the same token, he chose to fight a light heavyweight. He went for the money, went for the bigger payday. I mean, and he lost. But regardless,
that was also Roy looking to make history, which is what Crawford's doing. We're making the comparison with Crawford looking to make history and Roy trying to make history. And
Jimmy, let me get in Jimmy's half-stepping ass talking about what he said about. I didn't say anything about.
Hey, man, I was just sitting here, and you guys.
I didn't say anything about him not being.
I'm cleaning myself up. I talked about
over me. I threw both of you under the bus, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, Chris.
Yeah, you threw Paulie under the bus. You tried. I'm not taking it.
I'm not going under the bus. I'm not fighting Angry Crawford.
I'm pushing off the bus. I'm not going on that bus. I didn't say anything about his conditioning. I said, yes, obviously. I was talking about lighting and whatever, regardless.
Yeah, you did talk about lighting, which is a good point. Good point. Yeah. Also, grease. Grease. You notice, like, when you grease yourself up, when you don't grease yourself up, you look more.
But Chris, he looked great.
Here's another thing. Here's another thing. You're right. So, Jimmy, you're just about to say he looks great right now. Yeah. Crawford's still cutting weight, guys.
Yeah.
He's not walking in at 68.
Yeah.
So we're going to see him. He's drying out right now to make 68. This guy walks around the high 70s, maybe 80s. Yeah. He's pulling water out of his body. We're going to see him look ripped and shredded on the scale, just like we saw that video yesterday. What are we 3 days away from the weigh-in?
Yeah.
This guy's going to look absolutely ripped come fight night.
We're not criticizing. We're not animales.
We're not animales. But my question, though, Chris, and he responded to this. He said a lot of people coming up with ideas that I might have a late injury, which does show itself at this point in camp. He said, I don't have any injuries. Everything's feeling good, but fighters lie anyway, so we wouldn't know. But this idea, that was the other tactical concern. You were talking about the weight. The other concern brought up by his pictures was maybe there's a late injury. He's saying nothing, everything's fit. Do you believe it?
I mean, I have no reason
not to
believe him or not to believe him. I mean, I have no reason. I mean, listen, it's fight week in fighters. We talk about this all the time. We have fighter meetings like, oh, how was camp? Best camp of my life. And then you find out afterwards, my hand was broken, or I hurt my rib, or I couldn't make it, or I had the flu.
I'll be honest, I don't. You can't go into.
You
can't admit you have an injury when you have an injury. You have to hide it.
Listen, I have been hurt and sick or going into fights and lying to myself. I'm not sick. I'm just, it's the weather change. I'm in New York, so now my nose is running. Meanwhile, I have the flu. But you don't even allow it to yourself. So I again, when it comes to fighters, giving the game, the week of the fight, it's not going to happen. And I hope that's true. I hope we have 100% healthy of both guys, but that's rare. That's rare when you're getting into fights like this, especially guys that are a little bit older. Crawford's been super inactive, but lives in the gym. Canelo's another guy. You never know. The body after 35, things start to break down a bit, and it's tough getting through camps, especially when you're preparing for one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound, which both of these guys are. The camps are tough. Camps are long. Camps are hard, and there's a lot riding on these opportunities in these situations. The guys don't want to push things back either. So we're never going to know those answers until maybe after, if ever. But regardless, Crawford looks to be in phenomenal shape, which doesn't surprise me one bit.
Well, when you look at Crawford's physical readiness, he's always been prepared, but also at the top. When you look at Dana White, who's, of course, promoting this Crawford-Canelo showdown, is attempting to amend the Ali Act to allow basically a UFC structure to boxing. He recently gave an interview. You can see it on X. This is what he had to say about his attempts to change the Ali Act. Here it is.
You support that legislation, right?
100%, yeah.
How necessary is that to get passed in order for you to operate in boxing like you do in the UFC?
Yeah, I think that, I'll give you an example. If you look at the UFC, we bought the UFC for $2 million. And if you paid attention today, the stock is at $200 a share. So when you can, I don't know if there's ever been a sport or a business or anything that's ever existed where trillions of dollars in revenue were generated. And at the end of the day, there's nothing there. What we did with the UFC is turned the UFC into an NFL, an NBA. There's a league, you reinvest back into the sport, and other people want to invest in the sport, whether it's sponsors or, any of these financial firms, whatever it may be. That's what needs to be done with boxing too, and that's what I'm going to attempt to do. Listen, there's no ego or arrogance whatsoever when I talk about getting into boxing and trying to fix it, because this is a busted sport.
I got to challenge you on this, though. When you say that no one does their research, how can we when the Nevada Athletic Commission no longer releases fighter purses?
Why don't they?
You tell me.
Oh, I have no idea. You're going to have to ask a commissioner that question. I mean, but all that stuff is supposed to be transparent, and but there's got to be other California or some of these other states that would release them to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Not in Nevada since 2020. But then, like, let's take the last championship fight in the UFC, Duplessis and Chimaev. I think, what did Duplessis make? $1 million base pay?
Ask them. I mean, it's not my place to talk about. That's the other thing, too. There's no gag order on any of these fighters. They could all sit down and do full interviews with you guys on how much they make and what they were paid. They don't want to, because they don't want you to know what they got paid. When people find out what you made, it makes life a lot tougher. There's a lot of people sitting around looking for handouts when they find out you made millions of dollars. But any of these fighters, you could do interviews with any of them. They could lay out their entire pay structure for you. But it's kind of weird. None of them do it.
Now, he did another interview where he goes in a little bit deeper about fighter pay. We'll play that in a second. But that overall idea of trying to make the structure of boxing like the UFC, Paulie, you've had your back and forth with Dana White in the past. You obviously a high-level fighter in your own right. What's your thought on his comments?
Okay, so I'll give you this. Having grown up myself in old school Brooklyn, where reading people and reading situations was kind of par for the course for survival in those days, old school Brooklyn isn't new Brooklyn. You kind of start to, that kind of stays with you, So I know a bullshit artist when I see one, and this guy is the freaking king of bullshit artists. Now I'm going to give you an example.
It's a big fight week, Paul. You can drop the F-bombs. I'll allow it.
A bullshit artist will partially deflect, outright lie, or even change course of a question when you ask him. If you notice, she asks him, how important is it to amend the Ali Act for you in order for you to do what you do? Right. Instead of answering the question, what does he do? He goes out and he circumvents the question while pretending to answer it and talks about how they've been successful, where the UFC was a $2 million buy, and now it's got 200. It's at 200 shares on the market.
$200 a share. It's valued in the billions.
So on and so forth. But he didn't answer the question. That has absolutely nothing to do with what she asked you. So he's basically
it's the end justifies the means argument.
Yeah. Well,
look what I did. Look what I did.
But here's the thing. For those of us in the know, we also know how he bought the UFC. Okay, where the guy, the original owner, was bleeding money because he couldn't get it accepted into big states like Nevada, New York, and California. And the Fertittas were on the board in Nevada. They stepped down and then used Dana. Okay, this is hearsay, but it's, if it's not factual, it's very close to factual because this is the word going around. They stepped down and then used Dana to buy the UFC with their money, because Dana's never done anything with his own money. He doesn't even want to do this with his own money. He's using Turkey's money, right? So, and by doing that, they had their friends on the board. Once Dana bought it and the Fertittas bought it, now their friends on the board passed the UFC. And now, being that it's allowed in Nevada, it's able to blow up. It's able to. So prior to that, that guy didn't have the connections on the board in order to get it past.
SEG Sports was the original order.
SEG Sports.
SEG
Sports. Yeah. And again, the owner
Bob Meyerowitz, I believe.
So Meyerowitz is bleeding money. He has no choice. He's got to sell it because he's hemorrhaging money. Once you get it past, had he been able to get it past in Nevada, he does the same thing. So this is not like a genius play that Dana White became like a genius and he bought the UFC and we've done this. You didn't do anything, dude. You just got it past in Nevada because you had the connections to get it past in Nevada through the Fertitta money. Okay? So now when you realize how it went from a $2 million buy to $200 a share, okay, we know the scheming tactics you used. Go back and answer the question. Why is the circumventing the Ali Act so important? He didn't answer the question. He did not answer the question. Then he goes around, and when she asks him about how can we figure out what they're making, we don't know what they're making. He plays stupid. Again, that's another deflective bullshit artist tactic. You play stupid, and you say, "Oh, I don't know." Ask the fighters. Though the fighters, they don't want to talk about what they're making because then people start calling them. But I got news for you, and actually it's not even news to you because you're a bullshit artist and you know better than me. Okay, when you're on TV in a main event, people assume you're making money anyway. Okay, people thought I was making tons of money when I was fighting 4 rounders on ESPN. All right, because they see you on TV. So the whole, but they don't want to discuss what they make because then people start asking them money for money.
Hey, you know who really doesn't want to discuss what they make?
Who?
The promoters.
Dana White. Yeah, exactly. So, but that's what I'm saying. So he's circumventing.
Let's keep it real.
So he's circumventing it again. But I'll tell you what. then he goes, why don't you sit down with them and talk to them, because they'll talk to you. There's no gag order. There is a kind of a sidebar gag order, because there's guys in the UFC that have argued about their pay structure. There's guys in the UFC that have complained about their pay structure. And you know what happens to them? They get benched. Okay, so that's like a gag order without a gag order. That's like when you had to take the COVID shot, but we're not mandating it. But if you don't take it, you're gonna lose your job. Well, what do? You go take it, right? It's the same thing here. There's no gag order. Oh, they're allowed to talk about their purse. Yeah. If they complain, see if they fight again for the rest of the year, or see if their contract gets honored. So this is a bullshit artist who's been bullshitting for so long, and he's been spoiled because the dumbest sports fans in sports are MMA fans. The mental instability I've seen in that and with that fan base once I started fighting bare knuckle was incredible. And when I dealt with the McGregor situation, I couldn't even explain to these people if I wanted to, because I felt like I was getting dumber trying to explain it to them. And by osmosis, I was getting dumb. I'd be like, what am I doing over here? Interacting with such idiocracy. So I had to step back. So he's had the benefit of having this kind of fan base that just believes everything he says. But in reality, it's not like I'm looking at him and I say, I read him because I'm from Brooklyn, I read him. No, he's also got a history of being a bullshit artist. He's got a complete history of being a bullshit artist. So this is just him being himself. You got to read between the lines. You got to know his resume. You got to know his history. And you got to just look at his body language and the way he's deflecting all those questions. But credit to that reporter. That reporter had more balls than anybody on that Boxing Writers Association.
I thought she did what?
You guys got no balls. I'm always saying they got no balls because all they do is give softball questions because they want to get their credentials. You guys all have no balls. Credit to that woman. She has bigger balls than all of you.
Yeah, Dixon did great. Chris, what are your thoughts on it, man?
So real quick, you're talking about the history of this guy. Listen, how come no one brings up the lawsuit, the
class action lawsuit? Yes.
Law? It's still going on. That's not done with. There's thousands of fighters and antitrust legality going on with the way that UFC developed into what it is today. So when he gets asked that question about the Muhammad Ali Act, and like you said, Champ, he circumvents the question. He goes around. He does but look where we are now. The stock price is $200 a share now. It used to be this, and now it's this. Look how far we got. The end justifies the means. How did they get there? How many fighters got screwed along the way? How many businesses were cut at the knees along the way? And listen, boxing is way too established for that. You cannot do with boxing what you did with the UFC.
It was a new sport. So you're able to.
Way too many players now. And this is why we're seeing so much pushback from governing bodies, because they are one of the players that would push back on all of this. They wouldn't allow this. There's promoters, there's managers, there's governing bodies. All these different things are involved now, which UFC did not, which MMA, excuse me. I don't want to do what the casual fans do and say every MMA fight is UFC.
You train UFC, bro? You train UFC, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What MMA was in the beginning is not where boxing is now. Boxing has been established business for decades, hundreds of years, literally. And the modern day, all the players that are involved now, they don't want a new kid on the block coming in changing everything. That's why they're taking aim at the governing bodies. That's their first aim. They're also aiming at the promoters. So you're going to have to get the old guard out if you're going to start with a whole new thing. And I just don't see that happening. There's too much power, too much money, too much establishment, too much infrastructure in the sport of boxing, which MMA did not have in the 90s and early 2000s. It's a completely different animal. The maturity of this sport is completely different. They basically wrote the book during the UFC. It was all new. It was all novel. Boxing's old. You're going to have to deal with all of these players. I just don't see how that's going to be able to happen. I don't care how much money is coming in from outside sources from a third party, because like you said, Dana's not going to spend his own money for this. It's going to cost too much. And anyone who has tried in the past, the 50 Cents of the world, the Jay-Z of the world, they never stick around. They can't. It's just too much money. But like you said, Champ, it's not so much looking at him historically. It's just still going on. This is nothing new. But people don't read into things. Fan bases, people are busy. People don't have time to look into this kind of stuff, and they kind of just say like, oh, a league, that's great. If fighters are going to get paid this, oh, that's pretty good. I talked to so many people who were saying just like that. The casual fans who are like, no, I think it's a good thing. UFC is great. Yeah, but how'd they get there, man? And how many fighters are going to suffer along the way? Just don't think it's going to work with boxing the same way it did. It can't work the same way.
Well, when you talk about organizational structure, of course, Dana talking about that, but the nuts and bolts in the weeds of fighter pay, the interview continued. This is what Dana White had to say.
The difference that I'm wondering about is fighter pay, because historically, boxers in championship matches are making a lot more than UFC fighters in championship matches. So what do you do?
Well, there's a handful of guys that always make that kind of money. When you look at the UFC, the money is spread across the entire group of guys. You eat what you kill. I mean, if you are a huge star like Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, many people have proven that they could sell pay-per-views, and you eat what you kill here. We also have guys that would be considered journeymen in boxing who make millions of dollars. So the whole fighter pay thing is completely not true. And what I want to do is, obviously I'm doing this Canelo Crawford fight, and I don't think anybody's questioning what these two are going to get paid.
Well, I am, because it's not on record. What's the base purse for Canelo?
Well, imagine what it would take to get Canelo to fight Crawford and have a guy move up weight classes when he's undefeated.
I've heard $100 million.
Probably.
But no one in the UFC's ever made that as a base purse.
Conor McGregor?
$100 million. But that was against Floyd in a
Right.
boxing match. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
So
What about Crawford? What's he getting?
who?
Crawford.
I don't know. I actually don't even know. So that deal was cut with Sheikh Turkey in Saudi Arabia. And basically in 26, I'm going to start my show. And what I'm going to do is basically like the Contender Series. The best will fight the best. Undefeated guys will fight undefeated guys. And what you will do is you will care about the first fight of the night and not just the main event. So I will build stars, put on great fights, and then these guys will graduate, and fight with Sheikh Turkey, and they will determine, how much they get paid. And
A lot to digest before I get to the champs. Remember, hashtag boxing scene today. What do you think of what Dana had to say? What do you want us to discuss on air? Once again, gentlemen, a lot to talk about when it comes to fighter pay. Chris, let me start with you. What do you think about what Dana said? And evaded the question a little bit, but you can't deny the disparity between what championship boxers make, what champions make in the UFC. And what's your thought?
I love it's only a handful of guys. Yeah, it's a handful of guys every generation. Sure. In UFC, there's been a handful of guys. And when I say handful, there's two. It's literally Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor. And he literally couldn't say many more guys. He said those two names, and then it came up again, and he brought up Conor McGregor. And I'm tipping my hat to Amber Dixon for giving it back to him and being like, oh, and he did it in a boxing match against Floyd Mayweather. So when he made that $100 million, it was because he was in a boxing match, not in a cage. So that the argument still stands about fighter pay at the highest level and even at the lower levels. And we do have journeymen who make millions of dollars. Mickey Ward made $1 million fighting Arturo Gatti. He was popular enough. He used the term, you kill what you eat, you eat what you kill. Hey, Mickey Ward fought for a long time, hunting, fighting, and he got into a fight that sold. Finally, he got into a fight that sold. He got into 3 of them. He had a trilogy. By that 3rd fight, he was making $1 million. Got that 7-figure. He ate what he killed. And that's something that you see much more in boxing. These guys are making money. I've talked to fighters. I've talked to UFC guys. There are guys that make good money. They make millions of dollars. There's way, way more boxers that make millions upon millions of dollars. And some guys that are not even mainstream that make millions of dollars that people may not even know about that are making that. For you to make millions of dollars in the UFC, you're a known entity. You're a known guy. And there's not as many other mouths to feed like it seems like there is in the UFC. Because like he said, the money gets spread out across everybody. Boxing's not like that. We are a lone wolf sport. And if you lead the charge, if you're putting butts in the seats, you make the money.
The question, too, that I want some, that needs to be clarified, and having been in MMA for 25 years, the UFC takes a fraction of the MMA population. People tend to, UFC and MMA are the same thing. In comparing the UFC to boxing, the UFC is taking a fraction of mixed martial artists. It doesn't take all of them. It's almost like comparing, I don't know, the stable of something like Top Rank to the UFC would be a more appropriate comparison. What's your thought?
Well, this is why I don't rate the intelligence of MMA fans. They're basically UFC fans, not really MMA fans, because they don't even demand the champions from another promotion to have to fight the champions of the UFC. While in boxing, you can never say the top-ranked world champion is the best in the weight class until he fights the world champion that belongs to Matchroom, maybe. And in big circumstances, those matchups do get made. So, or whatever. I'm giving examples of cross-promotional rivalries. You'll never have that in MMA because the lines are drawn in the sand. But unfortunately, the fan base is so stupid that they don't even demand it and put pressure on it for that to happen. They don't even watch a lot of the other promotions. And the other promotions have some world-class fighters, like such as ONE and PFL and so on and so forth. I get it. The UFC has a lot of the bigger stars and the bigger names, but you still have to demand the champions should fight one another. MMA is so watered down with stupidity that the fan bases don't even understand what they're missing out on or the possible fights that they could get. The demand. And boxing fans, we're kind of spoiled in that we're understanding of these things. I don't know. That guy's good. That guy's good. I want to see that matchup. I don't care if they're cross promotional. I want to see. And a matter of fact, when they don't happen, people get criticized. People still criticize Mayweather for not having fought Margarito, even though it was a cross promotional rivalry and it was a tough fight to make back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, so when it don't happen, guys get criticized for it. You know, in MMA, the fans only are clueless as to the possibility that you could even demand for something like that. I mean, again, I can't imagine being that dumb that it hurts my brain to even think about. So I don't even have that conversation. Going back to this guy, though, because this guy benefited from the stupidity of his fans. Dana White's talking about the pay structure, and he talks about McGregor, and he talks about Ronda Rousey. Oh, we've had them. Bro, you're talking about people that are on the level of Mayweather and Canelo now. Mayweather and Canelo wouldn't spar, as we talked about, for the amount of money McGregor and Ronda Rousey were getting paid.
For their entire career.
Yeah.
Put it all together.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't even spar for that kind of money. Because now you're talking about bona fide superstars. Nobody's saying the UFC doesn't create superstars.
They do? No.
They don't pay the superstars like superstars, though. Money stays down. He says it's spread out across the board. It is not spread out across the board. It is spread out for you and the hierarchy and the corporate structure. It doesn't get spread out across the board. He's talking about we have journeymen that make good money. No. Those guys wouldn't be journeymen. You just match them so tough that everybody gets beat, and then you call journeyman records. No, because they get matched so tough. Because what you do is you get everybody knocked off so they never get too big, okay? And then you say, oh, that's a journeyman record. He would never make that much in boxing. No, you just make the fight so tough constantly. Those are still world-class guys with journeyman records, so to speak, by boxing standards. But they're not journeymen like boxing journeymen. Boxing journeymen are not world-class typically. MMA journeymen are world-class, but you just constantly get them beat. So that record is deceiving. You can't compare it to a boxing journeyman. A boxing journeyman is a boxing journeyman. An MMA record journeyman is not necessarily a journeyman. A lot of times they're world class and just get matched so tough that they get beat. And then I'll make my last point, okay? End of my boxing career, I can remember my purses were starting to dip. My purses were starting to go down. I remember I looked at an MMA main event, a UFC main event. Max Holloway, who I thought was a little dirtbag, by the way. He was one of the MMA guys who was actually defending Conor McGregor and my beef with him. Like, if you're a fan, I can understand you falling for that video. If you're a fighter, you gotta be an absolute moron to fall for that video. But anyway, that aside, Max Holloway, staying on the Max Holloway tip. I remember I looked at him. I think it was Volkanovski maybe he was fighting. Did he fight that guy?
Fought him 3 times.
Yeah. So I was looking at the main event purses because at the time you could see them online. I was at the end of my boxing career, dude. My purses were getting lower, okay? Max Holloway was fighting for what I was fighting for, okay? At the end of my career.
In a championship fight.
In a championship main event on UFC.
Long-running champion, by the way.
Okay? He was making the purses I was making at that time in my career, okay, in his main event. Now, granted, you're going to tell me, yeah, he had a couple of pay-per-view points. I get it. I understand, okay? You probably made a little more off the pay-per-view money, but it still comes back down to it. This is a major pay-per-view event, and this is the base that he's fighting for. So don't tell me that you spread the money across the board and then you pay journeymen, because, again, it's a bullshit artist knows how to be deceptive in very good ways. But you need an idiot fan base in order to fall for all this. Somebody who can read between the lines can read between the lines very, very easily. And it's very, very easy to dissect the bullshit artist that is Dana White.
So what are your thoughts on what Dana said, Chris, about having kind of a contender series model with TKO, and then they would fight in bigger fights? This idea of creating a build your own star kind of league, in a sense, when it comes to TKO. What's your thought on that?
Well, for one, I mean, it's good. It's actually a good idea in terms of, the guys who are looking to get that shot. And there's so much content that is necessary these days because of our streaming services. And listen, there's fights on all the time. And when Paulie and I were growing up, every fight that you saw on TV, because that was when we watched things on TV and not like on phones and computers and whatnot. Everybody was good. It took them a while to get there. You weren't on TV until you were out of the oven, cooked and ready to go. Now we're seeing all kinds of fights. We're seeing guys that are developing. We're literally developing, watching development fights on the way up, which is both good and bad. It's got its own positive and negatives. But you're going to see these contender series, and it's going to be competitive, and it's going to be, the best of these younger crop fighting each other and knocking each other off constantly. It's going to get rid of undefeated records. That's for one, which is fine. I think we should move away from that. And we're going to see guys who are tested early, tested tough, tested often, and you're going to create some good fighters.
Go ahead.
But what happens after that? Because if they're fighting for their own belts and you're keeping out the Mauricio Suleimans of the WBC out of the ring, when do they actually graduate to what Dana was saying and go to those big biscuit fights, or whatever the word that he used was, under Turki Al-Sheikh? How are they going to move into those fights? Are they going to be tested at a world-class level so they're even going to be ready for those kinds of fights? Because if you're just fighting amongst your own group, it's like being in a gym and you only spar guys in your gym. And yeah, you become the man of your gym. Then you go to some other gym, get your ass kicked because you haven't been around other guys. So when you start playing in your own playpen and then try and step out, first of all, how do you step out? Because now we're talking business-wise, how are we going to make that happen? But also, you're going to be ready. Are you going to be competing at the highest level, in a world-class level, I should say, when you're playing in a smaller pond? So I think the beginning of it, I think, is going to be really good, and it's going to be cool to watch, and we're going to see a lot of potential future budding stars come out of that. But I don't know how the transition is going to work to those bigger fights. And it seemed like even from Dana's answer, he doesn't really know either. He just kind of threw it on to Turkey. He's like, "Oh, those guys will move up and then go to Turkey." There wasn't really a plan for that. Doesn't seem like it. Seems like it's coming step by step. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I know a lot of younger guys who are excited about the TKO thing. They're going to jump into this tournament structure and fight each other and get consistent fights and maybe even have, I don't know, benefits like health insurance and things like that, which fighters never do, which would be really helpful and beneficial. But I think there's just so many ways that it can turn into what the early UFC looked like.
But Jim, I want to go back and what you said about and get moving away from undefeated records. I want to re-stress that doesn't make them journeymen. The going away from undefeated records is because they're going to fight each other. So those are still world-class guys, possibly.
Yes.
They're just fighting one another, so they're going to take L's.
No, I think it's a positive.
So
I think it's
a positive. But
thing.
what I'm saying is the viewpoint of the fan has to be that's not, now the records are going to get busted up. That's just because they're not undefeated doesn't make them journeymen. These are, again, MMA quote-unquote journeymen are not journeymen. Those are world-class fighters that have just been matched very, very tough, and so their records get busted up a little bit. Having said that, I want to make one last point, though. He talked about what does it take to get a Canelo in the ring, and what it take to get Crawford. And he basically used that as an example. Again, deceptive. Use that as an example of, hey, we're going to pay. You see what we're paying these guys. No, their structure is going to be modeled at never creating that kind of star again. Never creating that kind of demand again for a fighter that makes that kind of money. By, again, matching them tough, getting them beat here and there, and so on and so forth. So their structure never goes to that superstar level. So you never have to pay them that much. This is the old guard that they're paying to give you the appearance that they're going to keep doing this. But once the old guard is gone, you can see what they're doing with new guard, matching them tough. Yeah, paying them a little better than prospects usually get paid. So the young guys get, of course, they're happy because they're like, oh man, I can get paid as a prospect like I am a contender. But your ceiling will never ever be what Canelo, Oscar De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, and those guys will ever make. You'll never have the possibility of that ceiling. So, yeah, you like making a little bit more money off the bat than do other prospects, but your ceiling is not much higher than that. While doing it the old school way, the open-ended way, the ceiling, if you can become a star in boxing, is very, very high. And then the demand is very, very high. That's what they're trying to take away. And it's not because the money generated will be less. No. It's because the money generated will now go in their pocket instead of your pocket. That's the difference with the structure. And that's what he's trying to do.
Well, a lot to talk about. Of course, Dana White, always vocal, so he always gives us plenty of news. Hashtag boxing scene today. Get in your questions, get in your topics. We will discuss them on air. Stay tuned all week. Canelo Crawford rolls on. Don't forget our pre-press conference show. That's going down this week. Don't miss it right here on Boxing Scene Today, your source for boxing news. Welcome into Boxing Scene today, our live pre-press conference show. Canelo Alvarez, of course, Terence Crawford. They will be on in about an hour, but we got a panel full of guests, so many people to talk you through it pre-show, and then through the press conference, and then a post-show afterward to talk about the news and notes that will happen tonight. Hashtag Boxing Scene today. Get in your questions, get in your comments. We can discuss them on air. Well, Jimmy Smith in studio. You're used to me being alongside this guy, Paulie Malignaggi, but also Bob Santos, outstanding trainer of the year 2022. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Great to be here.
Finally get that in-depth knowledge Paulie's always talking about. We're finally going to get it from Coach.
Well, Bob, we get it for sure.
Well, Bob, we get it. Also joining us via Zoom, of course, Chris Algieri, the champ, and also Lance Pugmire from Boxing Scene. All this knowledge in one place. So I got to start with the new guy to my left. Bob, when you look at this press conference, not a lot of jawing back and forth so far between the fighters. None of that, but always the psychological games. Whenever you're in the same place as your opponent, whenever you're being asked questions, man, what are you looking forward to tonight?
Well, getting to the point that you just made, when you have two alphas, that's always going to be the case, right? But, I'm just looking forward to Canelo and Crawford. Basically, who's going to impose whose will, whose style. Me and Paulie were talking a little bit about that off stage back here, but it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a barn burner, to say the least.
Yeah, the idea, Paulie, you talk about all the time, the experience level of these guys, right? They've been through so much. They're used to the spotlight. A lot of people, when it comes to press conference, and I always say this, I go, press conferences are overrated, stare down to overrated. These are professionals. They know what they're doing. They've been under the big lights. When somebody does something in press conference, it's great fodder for us, right? It's great to talk about, but look, these are pros. I've never seen a guy get up there and just completely fall apart and then fall apart in the fight because of the pressure, because of the experience level of these guys. Is that a factor to you? These are veteran guys who've been there before.
Yeah, I think as veteran guys, there's a certain amount of respect to a degree, but then at the same time, like you said, when there's two alphas in the same room, you're also kind of strutting your stuff a little bit. You may not be trash talking, but you are cognizant of your appearance, even if you're not trash talking. You are cognizant of the way you want to appear to your opponent, the way you want to appear to the public, to the media, and so on and so forth. So I think that it's that some of that will always play a part. I think when guys are making this much money, sometimes they're just like, okay, there's no need to really trash each other because there's already a lot of interest in the fight. But I do think there is a sort of peacocking in a way that has to show when you're in the room, even if it's not noticeable. I think inside, we've been fighters, we kind of know inside of us that the opponent is there. Then you have the opposite sometimes with some press conferences, like you said, where there's kids yelling, there's trash talking, there's sometimes it's witty, sometimes it's corny, but it's there. And either way, I think at this level, the fighters are cognizant and they recognize what's at stake. And even if it does seem docile, I think on fight night they do understand what's at stake.
Lance, let me get that journalist perspective. You've been in a million of these. The idea that this one's a little more complicated because of the out of ring issues. Dana White, of course, trying to form his own basically boxing league alongside Turki Al-Sheikh. You have revisions to the Ali Act, things like that, kind of outside of the fight itself. How much do you expect that to be brought up at this press conference?
It's very interesting because a lot of people who are observing this are saying that basically a takeover of the sport is occurring starting tonight, starting with this fight. So, all those things will be at play. We will be watching that behavior. It is different to hear the UFC guys talk about boxing. Honestly, it's like when I was a boxing reporter and first started covering the UFC, you can tell that they're a little bit like a fish out of water right now. They've got a UFC announcer who's going to be calling the fight. They've got all these things that are so new to them. So, the two constants are Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. And I think that as we observe these two guys, like you said, they've been through this so often for so many years. I think if they're going to do anything, it's to sort of stir the pot to make sure that we get more viewership. So there may be some friction shown on stage just to generate further a bigger audience.
How much, Chris, to you is to kind of piggyback off Lance's point, the idea that you're not talking to the press, you're talking to your opponent. You're always projecting something to the other guy there, and you've been in big press conferences yourself. How much is it projecting something to someone else and not about the question you're being asked?
Well, I think with these guys, the only projection to anyone else is to each other. And I'm going to push back a little bit on what Lance said. Like, I don't think this fight needs to be sold anymore. I think selling is over. I think at this point they're asserting dominance. And Bob Santos made a great point about, you got two alphas in the same room. I don't think they care about anything else other than beating that other guy's butt. That's where these guys are at right now. And everything's on the line at this point. So you've got Crawford, who's, by his own admission, has been the underdog his entire life. And then you got Canelo, who has so much to lose by a guy who's moving up essentially 3 weight classes to fight him. There's legacy on the line between both of these guys. And for me, I feel like when I watch these guys when they're in the same place, they're not selling anything. They're selling to each other. It is what I am pushing out to you. What my aura is against your aura. I'm coming to kick your ass. And I don't care who's there, I'll kick your ass in a closet. I'll kick your ass in front of 10 million people. I'll kick your ass on Netflix. It doesn't matter. That's where I think these guys are probably at this point. I don't think this fight needs to be sold. It's going to be on Netflix. There's going to be so many eyes on this fight. There's so much interest in the fight in general because it is a truly crossover event where you're going to have fighters that are going to pull different audiences from different places to watch on the same night. Is this the best fight that could be made in boxing? No. But is it the biggest event that could be made this year? Absolutely. And I think that these guys, as much as they're involved in the event itself, they're still competitors trying to best the other man. And at this point, I mean, I remember Fight Week, Paulie. I know I'm gonna lean on you for this. Fight Week was about beating the guy that's across the stage from you. I mean, I'm not trying to sell a fight. I'm trying to whip this man. Because at the end of the day, if I sell a fight and don't win, I'm taking a pay cut. Neither one of these guys wants to make a pay cut.
Yeah, but this idea of you can't back down, especially publicly, Paulie, that mental game, you know it well. You did it yourself.
Yeah, I think also when you get a little older, you kind of just feel out the vibe, like Lloyd Christmas did in Dumb and Dumber. He hung by the bar and fell out the vibe. You know, I think when you get a little older, I think when you're younger, you go into a press conference, you're ready to just rock. You know, you're ready to just talk trash, and you know, you want everybody to know you. You're a fighter on the rise, and you're a fighter who's everybody's getting to know as a good fighter, and you want to convince everyone. And I think there's more bravado if you're that kind of personality. Not everyone is that kind of personality. But I think as you get older, especially, you sort of get used to the stage. You get used to the level of event, especially a guy like Canelo, who's been in such big and major events. But even a guy like Crawford, who has been on a world-class level for so long, you know, and you kind of just go in there and feel out the vibe. And sometimes it's not necessary to, you know, go all out. And sometimes it is. I mean, I can remember moments in my career. I remember everybody remembers the Adrian Broner press conferences with me. By that point in my career, I wasn't talking the same kind of trash. You know, it was like, I was kind of like, yeah, you know, well, if there's trash talking to be done, there is. If there isn't, there isn't. You know, while earlier in my career, I was ready to talk trash in every press conference. But, you know, sometimes the opponent brings it out of you. And then, boom, you're going. You're off to the races. You know, so I think these guys are, you know, respectful, but they're also, like Champ said, you know, they're also ready to kick each other's ass. They know there's a job to be done, and they know the importance of that job, especially this Saturday night, is of huge significance. So, yeah, a piece of me maybe wants one of them to get offended a little bit, so we can kind of set it off a little bit, just to see how the reactions would be, you know. But at the end of the day, even if we don't get that, I think both guys, you know, are not the type to show unprepared. They're not the type to half-ass it like we've seen some Canelo opponents do, and or even you know, though Crawford is smaller, I think Crawford understands the amount of legacy that's on the line here. Because I think about, you know, if Crawford wins this fight, the way people would be talking about his career is there's no ceiling anymore. You could go as high. It could go really high as far as the perception of Crawford's entire career, Crawford's legacy. It can be so high. Canelo too. I mean, Canelo, obviously it's an important fight, but I think the perception for Crawford especially, I mean, to go up these many weight classes, especially when he's been so dominant at the smaller weight classes, and if he's able to knock this guy off, you know, I think it would be a huge achievement.
Well, let's talk about that motivation for a second. If you're of a certain age, and Bob and I are, you remember, I always say Sugar Ray Leonard taking on Hagler, right? The times a fighter, Roberto Duran, stepping up to 147 pounds, even at middleweight, this idea of a fighter stepping up out of their comfort zone, That's what we remember about a fighter. When you talk about Muhammad Ali, you don't talk about the Cleveland Williams fight, which is maybe at his best. You talk about when he was the underdog. When you talk about when Foreman was 7-1 favorite. When you talk about when he took on Sonny Liston. So talk about that motivation of somebody stepping up out of their comfort zone. That's what we remember as a fighter.
Well, sure. I think Crawford, to Paulie's point, I think he has more on the line for his legacy, because a lot of times with PBC, Top Rank, the different promotional things, a lot of people feel that he didn't get his opportunity. Then he goes out there and he beats Spence. So it's like, oh, we told you he was always better than what you guys thought he was. And you had that dynamic going. So if he can go out there and beat Canelo, I mean, it just alleviates all that. It just takes him to a level that people are just, they're just going to bandwagon on that thing. The fans are just going to be, oh my God, what do we always tell you? But he's got a tough task at hand. And, just giving it right now early on, I'm picking Canelo to win this fight. And I think Canelo has more room for error than what Crawford does. I think Crawford's going to have to fight a perfect fight, just like Sugar Ray Leonard did against Hagler. I think that's the type of fight he's going to have to even get a chance. So
what I'm curious about, I want to follow up on that, is when you talk about legacy, does Canelo have to be dominant? Because if he squeaks out a win, people go, well, that's 2 weight classes up. He didn't look dominant. He didn't look great. He didn't hurt him. This idea that he could be criticized even in a win. Is there pressure on him, not just to win, but to dominate a guy once again coming up 2 weight classes? Is there a little of that?
Well, Canelo, because he had the loss, boxing fans are, he had the loss early on to Mayweather. He's had a couple losses. So I don't think his ceiling is as high to set the standard like what Crawford can do. Crawford wins, like Paulie said, he's Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard. He just goes into that. He's arguably in that thing. I think that's not there for Canelo at this point. How much it hurts his legacy not to win, it will hurt it.
That's what I was going to ask you, Bob. What about the flip side? What if Canelo loses to Crawford? Does it hurt it because he's losing to a smaller guy?
You know what
I also have made the point, he's been avoiding the toughest fights at 168, especially of late. So now you've been avoiding them. Now the question, which is the point I've made, he's only here because he's avoided those guys. If he had been forced to fight the top contenders, just like every other champion in every weight class has to do, and they don't get treated with that kid gloves, he wouldn't even be here in the first place. I think he'd have got beat already. He'd been knocked off. So if he doesn't win this fight, all those arguments now kind of snowball, because now it's like, oh, you've lost to a smaller fighter.
Yeah.
You've lost to a smaller fighter, and should you even have been here in the first place?
Well, I think people that are just going to be realist, honest about the situation, they're going to look at it as it is. Canelo fans obviously going to say, well, he fought so many tough fights, and he's his 80th fight and his 200th fight.
There's no reason with Canelo.
You know what I mean? So that's not going to happen there. But definitely, to your point, I think, it'll hurt him if he doesn't go out there and put on a dominant performance. Because, like you said, we were talking about off stage, Hatton, those types of fights. And obviously when you're
the Matthew Hatton fight,
when
Josito Lopez was smaller.
Yeah, so
you brought up Jamel Charlo, 2 weight classes.
Amir Khan.
I mean,
the list goes on and on, Paulie. Why not stop there? Don't hurt the fight too much, Paulie. Don't hurt the fight too much. Don't hurt the selling of the fight. But to Paulie's point, though, I think it would hurt him. He's got to go out there, and I think he's got to go out there and sell out, too. I think he can't do what he did in the last fight with Skoll, even though Skoll was moving around. Yes, you could have cut the ring off, but he could have sold out more. I think he knew what was at stake on the back end with this Crawford fight, and I think he's going to have to sell out more for his legacy. And like me and Paulie had talked about earlier too, he's going to have to that point, show it. Not, like with Bivol, he should have maybe went after it a little bit more than what he did, and I think he's going to have to do it in this case.
Like you did in the second Golovkin fight.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do that.
A similar performance.
In that 12th round when Reynoso told him, hey, man, if there's ever a round you need in your career, this is it. And that probably sealed the deal for him to get Trainer of the Year with that round right there.
Lance, what I am curious about, and the fan perspective, which you have been around, obviously covering all the media, doing everything you're doing, this idea, and we say it all the time, that there comes a time when sometimes fighters a little bit past their prime make a better fight. This idea that they're meeting at the right time, maybe a little late, but meeting at the right time for their particular skill sets. Also, this is one of those fights where the casual fan is incredibly interested. Boxing heads might go, this could have been a little earlier. We could have different. This is the best fight to make in boxing. But it's an incredible crossover fight. What's your thought of those two concepts, man?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Obviously, like you guys said, Terence Crawford has yearned for a stage like this. It's just been so deprived over opponents that he couldn't get while he was under his top-ranked contract. He finally gets his moment versus Errol Spence, and then he looks around and it's basically a blank canvas again. So for him to be able to reach this point and show exactly who he is just so compelling. I mean, the divide that Terence Crawford is dealing with in this fight, the potential to become a 3-time undisputed champion and join Henry Armstrong from way back in the day, is just a special, rare occurrence. Versus, I think that we also look at a fight that was similar not too long ago when Mikey Garcia, who was so talented, attempted to move up in weight to fight Errol Spence. And there was a lot of people who said, look, he just took the cash. He cashed out. Is Terence Crawford at this age of 37 happy to cash out here? Or is he really going to be able to produce the type of performance to affect the granite-chinned Canelo Alvarez? Can he do this? Can he put on this boxing exhibition? And I think that the intrigue in that is definitely behind us. In addition to the fact that it's a constant, guys, and you know this. Canelo Alvarez on Mexican Independence Day weekend is always going to make this place as packed and joyous and full as it always is right now. So you've got those two things going for you. People want to be connected to a great storyline, and no doubt about it, these are the two best fighters of this era.
So, Chris, I'm so glad that Lance brought that up, because I wanted to ask you about it. This idea that right now, in the first couple rounds, we may go, oh, that's right, there are better guys out there. We're not getting the best possible fight because, as Lance pointed out, is Canelo or Crawford, either one of them, cashing out at this point in their career? Are they going to go for it when they need to? Can they give us the effort that we've seen them give in previous fights? Is it a concern?
Jimmy, before I answer your question, I've got these all stacked on my head right now. See these these gloves over my left shoulder?
I see them.
I'm coming with counter punches today. I'm feeling very aggressive. I'm going to come after every single one of you guys and everything.
Always a counter puncher. I love it.
Paulie, so if he had fought the other guys in the weight class, Benavidez, and say he had lost, I think this fight still happens. Is it as big?
It wouldn't be for the undisputed title.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The fight still happens. And is it as big? Absolutely not. Does it matter? Yes. Does it get crossover appeal? 100%. Does he need to dominate? To Bob's point, I don't think so. I think in everything, you look at it straight away when you're close, and it's like, he didn't dominate the guy who came up through weight classes, but yeah, he got the win, and you pull out and you look back in history, and he still got a win over Crawford. That's another aspect of that. I don't think he needs to dominate in order to cement his legacy. And for Canelo, a win just keeps him where he's at. Guys, he's at the end of his career. This is where we make the most money. All of us. Every fighter makes the most money at the end of their career because the profile is that big. And you want to stay at that level as long as you can and maximize your earnings for the end of till you can't do this anymore. Granted, Canelo has made more money than most guys who have ever lived, doesn't ever fought. And he doesn't need to stay at this level, but he wants to. And he wants to keep making these earnings. He takes a loss. Listen, he's still going to make money. He's still going to be able to fight. Canelo loses this fight, it's not the end of his career. Yeah, his legacy takes a huge hit. Guess what? He's still going to make a ton of money in a fight. He's not going to make as much. He's going to take a huge pay cut. But he's still going to fight. He's still going to make some big matchups. And then Lance, to your point, I forgot what your point was already, but I think there's
Crawford's interest in fighting.
Yeah. Okay, no, Mikey Garcia. That was the one.
Okay.
So Mikey Garcia. So there was mutterings about Mikey Garcia not loving boxing for way before the Spence fight. And I know you know that, Lance. We all know that. We all heard that. And our colleague, Robert Garcia, would second that. So that was a cash out. Crawford's not a cash out guy, dude. He is a competitive guy. He doesn't want to lose in ping pong. Shakur Stevenson came out and said, like, you can't beat this guy in anything because he's going to beat you 100 times afterwards. And he's even said himself, he's like, everything's on the line here. The hunger level of Crawford is so different than these other guys. I do not see him pulling a Charlo and going out there and being like, seeing the flash and be like, all right, I'm good. I'll get to the end, maybe, and take the money. I don't see that. So I think there's a lot of things at play here, and a lot of it comes down to Crawford's willingness to actually dare to be great. And Champ, I know we've talked about this a lot, Paulie, about daring to be great. Daring to be great is not signing a contract. Daring to be great is fighting the fight in between the ropes.
Yeah.
That's daring to be great. Daring to be great is not signing a contract. Mikey Garcia signed a contract. People talked about him daring to be great. He did not dare to be great that night. I don't see Terence Crawford not daring to be great once he steps in the ring.
You know what? I love those points, Champ. And I have a counterpoint to Lance.
Of course you do.
Not to you, to Lance. As you were talking about counterpunches, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make my own counterpoint. Now, I got some points to make here.
You know, Bob can help you out with that as a trainer. If you
Lance, you made great points, except these are the two best fighters of this era. I think Crawford is among the best fighters of this era. I think Canelo is the most popular fighter of this era. Maybe him and Anthony Joshua. I do not think he's better than Usyk, and I don't even think he's better than Lomachenko. So that's my counterpoint. I think this is the popularity contest game gets Canelo this situation here. You know, this.
But Lance didn't say the best of the era. He
I said the two best fighters of the era. Right, Lance? Did you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
So
there you go.
Difference of opinion.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely, but I want to say on
Four-division champion.
On the tactical side, I got to ask Bob to my left.
Matthew Hatton was one of those championships, by the way.
Yeah, right.
When I look at Crawford, it's almost like he gets a read on you. He downloads the information. He finds a way to win. He has power in spots. He's incredibly technical. What makes him special? What makes him a riddle? If you're coaching Canelo for the Crawford fight, yeah, you have the physical advantage. You're a harder puncher, but no one's really been able to solve the tactical riddle of Terence Crawford. They're just befuddled throughout the fight. What makes him special?
I think his mindset. I think it's in his DNA. To Chris's point, that the guy doesn't even want to lose at ping pong. You know, so it's in his DNA. Jordan, the great ones, all have that. But I'll tell you, I've been in and around Canelo. I've been in a couple camps with him. Not that we're great friends, but I happened to be there when him and Triple G were sparring, and we were up in camp up in Big Bear with Robert.
Long before they fought.
Long before they fought. What's going to be interesting to me is like Mike Tyson said, everybody got to plan until they get hit in the face. And everything is relative. You've hit 80-mile-an-hour fastballs in the lower weight classes. Can you now hit the 105-mile-an-hour fastball in the weight class? Can you process when you're taking some big shots? You're getting hit to the liver. You're getting hit in and around the belt line and things like that where you've never been hit that way before. If he can handle that, then he's going to come up great. But can he handle that? And can he process when he's getting hit with those shots? You know, me and Paulie talked about it, like I said a little bit earlier when he was talking about Cotto, is one of the biggest punchers that he ever faced. You know, Paulie's obviously a great boxer, so was he. Probably the difference in the fight is Cotto's punching power. And so now this guy going up to 168, say what you will about Canelo, though, he's been in there with some big boys. He's faced some heavy fire. And you think about Bivol, everybody, well, Bivol outboxed him, Bivol did this, and Bivol did that. That's a big man at 175 pounds. I've been around Crawford. He's not that big. He height-wise, they may be the same, but bone density, they're not the same. And it's going to be interesting to me when he gets hit, and he gets hit hard and heavy, and I really believe Canelo is going to sell out a little bit more. And I think it's in his DNA. He's going to try to box him. Is he going to be Charlo? I don't think so either. I think he'll bite down and go for it and dare to be great, and that may be his undoing in the fight.
I'm going to make a point, Bob, because we talked about this off air too. I want to make it on air. The jabbing. The jabbers always trouble Canelo. You know, Cotto, even as a smaller man, his jab was troubling Canelo. Bivol is a bigger man. His jab was troubling Canelo. Even in the second Golovkin fight, Golovkin's jab was very effective.
Mayweather gave him a lot of trouble with the jab, too.
Mayweather, of course, yeah. Mayweather also, you know, Lara's movement. Is there an answer for Canelo to a switch hitting jabber like Crawford? You know, I mean, okay, we can't say for sure that's the ticket to the win because I think Crawford has to do more than just jabbing, right? But, you know, even if that pushes the fight to go to distance, you know, with Crawford's ability to jab and offset Canelo, who throws, 30, 40 punches around. He's not the busiest guy, right? So is there a response that we may see from Canelo to that jab that we haven't seen before? Because we haven't really seen Canelo with a response to the jab. I thought Golovkin won the second fight with Canelo because of the jab, but he didn't get the decision. Everybody was so big on Canelo's adjustment going forward that nobody was actually talking about Golovkin's adjustment going backwards on the jab. And I thought it was a very effective jab. I've not seen Canelo adjust to the jab, but Crawford is smaller, and we've seen smaller guys with fast, solid jabs like Amir Khan get smoked. So there's an offsetting to that. How much does this bigger size come into play now, right? Because you're talking about 105-mile-an-hour fastball in the big leagues to the 80-mile-an-hour fastball in the bush leagues. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, what you talking about, Bob? Can he handle it?
Well, the thing is, in the first 6 rounds, I'm sure Crawford's going to be able to be popping him with the jab pretty good, and I think it's going to be very effective. What's going to happen after the 6th round? That's going to be the telltale. Can he continue that up? And I really just believe Crawford has to fight the perfect fight. Canelo doesn't. But I do think Canelo needs to sell out a little bit more in this fight than he has in the past. He may have to take a little bit more risks to get where he needs to go.
You talk about he's got to sell out, and we're going to see in the first 6 rounds. Does he need to get to the body in those first 6 rounds?
He's got to
slow down Crawford for the second half of the fight.
I think he's going to have to take some risk versus reward if he wants to be great, because I think he can do it. If he sells out, risk versus reward, yes, you're taking a gamble, but you know what? High stakes, high reward. This is what this is all about if you want to be great.
Bob, I don't want to cut you off. What happens if Crawford hits him and Canelo feels it?
I'm sure he's going to feel it. He's going to have some kind of punch to some.
No, what if he really feels it? What if he gets stung with a shot and he goes, "Wow, this is not what I expected." Similar to how Spence felt. I'm not saying it's going to be a Spence, situation where he gets hit with a jab and is rocked. But what if because going to the Spence fight, we're looking at this like, Spence is a Terminator. This guy, walks through the best punchers in the world. He walked through Danny Garcia. He walked through guys like Mikey Garcia, who obviously coming up in weight, but also Sean Porter, like guys who are super aggressive and can punch. Danny Garcia hit him with some brilliant left hooks, and Spence barely blinked and walked through and beat him up. And then in the first round with Crawford, I think Spence probably won the first round, but the second round you see him get dropped with a jab, or he gets stung with a shot prior to that. I'm sure he did. What happens if Canelo gets hit with a shot and he goes, "Oh, damn, this guy can actually hurt me"? Does he fight different? Does it change the play?
Of course, it's going to
sell out. It's going to sell out.
It's going to trend.
Does the sellout go away?
Well, that's something that he's going to have to ask with inside himself. But I can tell you this: having Erislandy Lara that fought Canelo, Lara can punch. And Lara can punch. And when I mean he can punch, he's a better puncher than people think. Ask Paul Williams, ask Danny Garcia.
But he was a better puncher. I mean, granted, he's a very respectable puncher, but he turned into a much better puncher.
No, but he could,
even
when he was on the move, he could punch. Believe me, I've been with him basically his whole career, and I've been with Canelo, like I said, in camp with some big men, and I've never really seen Canelo hurt. So. To me,
but he stopped him. But Lara stopped his forward momentum in that fight. I just watched it recently. Lara's power was significant enough. It was respectable.
I don't think Bud has the same type of power as Lara.
What about to the body?
That is my question. Okay.
I just don't think so.
What about Bud going to the body? We know Canelo's a body puncher. What about Bud going to the body?
One thing about Canelo, I'll tell you this is, Canelo doesn't have fast feet. But he has fast hands. Yeah. So when you go to the body, get ready for the counters, buddy. Yep. Are you gonna be willing to risk that? Because when you go downstairs, he's gonna counter up top. I know he is, and he's got quick hands, and we'll see if Bud's willing to do that. I think he's gonna have to do it early on, high risk, high reward. He's gonna have to take those gambles and think he can get himself outside of it, but. When he does, I think Canelo's going to hit pay dirt with a couple of counters on there, and I think again he's going to be very, very surprised when he gets hit by a full-blown super middle.
Yeah, Bob, Bob and Lance, I got some information that you might not know. I know that
Lance knows everything. Stop.
Nah, he don't know this.
Okay, all right, Lance.
So I know Jimmy and Paulie got some dirt on you, Lance. So I sparred Canelo. I have been in the ring with Canelo a couple times, and to exactly what Bob just said. One, his hand position is fantastic. The way he's able to get his hands in his guard into position, even when I sparred him when he was very, very, very young, I think he was 21 or so, whatever. His ability to get his elbows into position, to block, to catch and shoot. I was always a good body puncher. I'm a jabber and a body puncher and a mover. So that was always my style, and I was always trying to get to his body. His ability to check and counter body shots was exceptional, even back then, and he's gotten way better in defense. So going to Canelo's body is not an easy task. Yeah, it sounds great on paper, but getting there and doing it is a whole different thing.
Everything's great on paper.
But also, so this is a very fine point. When you look at certain builds of guys, and Floyd Mayweather was the prototypical perfect boxing build. The guy had a super short torso, really long arms, really long arms. So that shoulder roll defense, when he had his hand, he would be knuckle to his temple and elbow to his hip bone, because his torso was short. So, and then he's got the shoulder roll. He had very built up, rolled shoulders. Whoop, 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 whoop. All that was there. Canelo also has a very short torso. There's not a lot of area to hit. There's not a lot of real estate to target. Plus, his catch and shoot, his ability to counter, his rolls and moves and slips and hand position are very, very good. Very, very difficult man to attack the body. So it sounds great on paper. I'm going to get to his body. Everybody says that. I'm going to get to this guy's body. I'm going to get to Canelo's body. Okay, good luck. Guess what the receipt looks like? And when you got a guy who's at his size, his counterpunching ability, people are forgetting how fast the hands are of Canelo. Is he as fast as Crawford, who's coming away? Probably not. But he's fast enough. And that matters. Fast enough. Hits hard enough. Enough. That matters in fights. And I think with his short torso, his ability, that difficulty to go to his body, and his ability to counter, as long as he doesn't get shut down the way he did against Lara, in which he was really guessing for what to do next, he's still a super, super dangerous guy if you're looking to, as you said, sell out to go to the body. Because going to the body is a very dangerous thing. You have to get to that level where their hands are. You've got to reach down and get your hands away from your chin. When a guy's a good catch and shoot, when a guy's got a quick, explosive shot off of that, it's a dangerous place to be.
You know what? I'm going to piggyback on both of your points, because I'm thinking of the Kavaliauskas knockdown that wasn't counted. Kavaliauskas caught him with a hook at that short range, right? At that middle to short range. That's where you got to be when you want to get to the body of Canelo.
And even look at guys, because this is the thing that strikes me when I see the odds. I'm like, I want to go race to the sports book and bet Canelo to win this fight, because can Crawford hurt Canelo? Like you guys said, I don't see it happening. And B, when Crawford is, you guys know this again better than me, but when Crawford is trying to get to the close and land the shots, go look at like the Sean Porter fight and the way the punches that Sean Porter landed on Terence Crawford. If Canelo Alvarez lands those same punches, like this night is over.
Even Madrimov landed a lot against Crawford.
Guys, Canelo throws 4 punches around. I mean, he's also not as busy. Porter's a very physically active guy.
Wally, Crawford's not that busy either anymore.
No, he's not. But Crawford offsets you with a jab. So he does specialize in keeping the numbers down. He doesn't have to, in that regard, he won't have to be as active unless you're active.
Does he offset super middleweights?
That's the question we find out, right? But is Canelo suddenly going to start throwing 80 punches around? I don't think so.
No,
does he? How does he respond? And I've seen you guys talk about it, Paulie, you especially. We saw him slide so horrifically against Skull. Does he continue to slide, or does he look at that moment and say, like, I've got to be a better fighter. I've got to do better. I've got Terence Crawford in the ring.
I think something Bob was talking. Bob said as well is, he maybe wasn't caring about selling out so much in the
and he knew what he had on the back end.
He knew it was sort of exactly what's on the back end. He wasn't as motivated, but this is why I criticize the level of opposition, because you don't know for sure. He's fought cupcakes even before that, so we don't know, like, he looked really good in this other fight, so yeah, he just didn't care about the Skull fight because, he knew what was on the back end of that. That's what I want to say too. That's what Bob is saying. But dude, you're fighting an Uber driver who delivered the food here before Skull, and like now and I'm thinking like, all right, how do I know that it's
Come on, Paulie, come on. You're calling Berlanga.
Berlanga was unproven. Berlanga was unproven. Munguia got knocked out by 5-1 underdog in his very next fight. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. So we don't know what level he's.
You know, timing matters though, Paulie. Come on, timing matters when the fight's happening.
That's why he chose to fight them.
John Ryder went for broke. John Ryder fought the fight of his life that night, and I think that got taken out of him. I think the fight got taken out of John Ryder in that fight.
John Ryder fought in a ring the size of this couch, dude. They completely sticked everything against the guy. You know what I mean? Like you're fighting.
And he still fought his ass off.
He fought his ass off. That's a credit to Ryder. That's not a credit to Canelo for taking a guy who has no chance to beat you in the first place, and then also stacking the deck against him.
My credit goes to Canelo taking the fight out of John, and John has admitted that himself.
But why?
I gave my all
You stacked the whole deck against John. How do you?
Why? He got hit a lot by a guy who can punch.
Dude, you stacked the whole deck against John Ryder like he was Mike Tyson. Why do you need to stack the deck against John Ryder?
He had no choice. He had no choice.
John Ryder had no choice. Canelo had a choice.
Exactly, my point.
But that's what I'm saying. So we don't get.
He took a beating in that fight. He wasn't the same guy.
But that's why it's hard to judge where Canelo's at. That's why Lance's question it matters, because it's hard to judge where Canelo's at because you can't tell in those fights.
This fight is why we're here, guys. We're doing this for the next couple hours because there's so many variables.
And Canelo fought against logical opponents before that. I'd say, you know what? Yeah, he sold out again. He didn't sell out against Skull, but he didn't care. But, as you can see in this previous fight here, he was looking great, and he does do this, and he does do that, and so we can expect to see it in the Crawford fight. Bro, I haven't seen Canelo do this in years, so I don't know what Canelo's going to show up against Crawford.
I'll tell you this, Paul. I think in the Skull fight, I think he came in obviously expecting more engagement, and I think in my mind's eye, as the fight started playing out and he started moving more, then you start saying to yourself, am I going to take that much of a risk? Because now I'm cutting the ring off, but now I got to go risk versus reward and maybe get caught with something stupid. Because Skull's not a small guy. He's a pretty good-sized guy, too.
No, he's actually a pretty good fighter, too,
he's a hell of a fighter because I have a couple of Cubans from the Olympic team that trained with him, obviously. But he wasn't willing to engage and sell out whatsoever either. And so I think probably early on you think you're going to be in some engagement, and then the guy just keeps moving, and he keeps moving. Now it's like, do I even force this fight and run myself into something big knowing he had that in the back end? I think he would have gave much more of an effort if the other guy would have been two dancing partners, and I think that's probably what happened in that case. In this fight here, he's going to have to bring it. He's going to have to bring it.
I agree with you, but that's where the question is it that Canelo?
That's why to your point. He better bring it in this one.
That makes me.
It's going to hurt his legacy.
Bob, that makes me think of this is maybe guys. If you guys can all call me crazy if you want to. I'm thinking about Roberto Duran versus Leonard too, where he's trying to chase this guy. He's like, oh, this guy's supposed to fight me, and now he's moving, but he's also still tagging me because he's Leonard, obviously. But like, he just didn't want to be there at some point, and he's just like, eh. And he was obviously against Sugar Ray Leonard, who was actually tagging him and hitting him with big shots, and he retired. Skull didn't have that, but also Canelo had that same kind of idea, like, all right, Roberto said, listen, all right, you're the better man tonight. I'll get you next time.
Well, to that,
Canelo went, I'm going to beat you either way. I got a big fight coming up next time.
Well, but to that point, though, too, I think other mitigating factors, you guys would know better than anybody because I happened to, Chris, when you fought there in New York against Spence, obviously I had a couple kids on the undercard, and you've been in there with Cotto and some big major fights. I think the other thing is, too, Canelo's been in some major events for how long now? And then you go over to Dubai, and now you're fighting in a crowd of like 20 people. It almost becomes like a sparring session on top of those facts.
Not engaging.
And then everything's just like a snowball.
It's like a midweek
switched
sparring.
off. You're switched off.
It's like a midweek sparring session with.
I mean, they're supposed to be pros. They should. They're supposed to sell out, but it is what it is. There's human nature.
You made a great point. I went up a bunch of back to main event fights. I was on ESPN, then I fought on HBO, Boxing After Dark, and it was a huge crowd in Barclays Center. Then I fought Manny Pacquiao in Macau. Then I fought Amir Khan in Barclays Center, and then I fought a really tough Eric Bonet on the undercard of a fight. And like,
how do you get up?
So
tough as nails.
He was so mute. He was also my sparring partner. Yeah, he was very tough. Thank you, Jimmy. He's a very tough guy, tough as nails guy. And it was quiet. it was an underwhelming performance. Did I win the fight handily? Absolutely. Was it my best performance? Absolutely not. But like, it was quiet, and I hadn't been quiet in years. And I mean, I also came up fighting in my hometown where it was crazy every single time I fought. That was the quietest fight I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Quietest fight I ever had in my life is Eric Bonet. And I cannot say it did not affect me. It did not affect the performance of the
think
fight.
about this. How many times, there's a couple times I'd go in the Mayweather gym and you'd see a guy sparring Mayweather. I'm not saying names, and be, Jesus criminy, who's that guy? God, that guy's pretty damn good. Oh, he's 10 and 10, Bob. You know what I mean? So on the flip side of it, those guys, they would love to have a sparring session type atmosphere. But the guys, the real guys like you and Paulie and the guys that have fought at that level, the juices get going. It's just a whole different ballgame. That's why you guys were world-class fighters.
Which is a great segue to what I want to talk about, Lance. Let me start with you about some of the undercard fights or the fights outside of the main event that are interesting. You have names like Lester Martinez, which you know very, very well here at Pro Box TV. Fernando Vargas Jr., you have that name. You have Callum Walsh, who's the UFC and Dana White have been behind. Christian Mbilli. What's your thought on this undercard and how these guys handle the big lights?
Yeah, I think it's better than a lot of people are saying, guys. I have great interest in the Lester Martinez and Billy fight. I mean, my question is this: does the winner of that fight elevate himself over what we believe is going to happen next with Canelo versus Hamza Shiraz?
I think so.
If those guys, if Lester's impressive, he doesn't deserve that shot. Or if Mbilli, defeats Lester, doesn't he get that opportunity? He's already an interim champion as we speak. So to me, that's the most interesting undercard fight. And then, the Callum Walsh obviously is the guy for TKO. So that's why he's in that co-main event spot. He's going to be the guy who's going to be carrying the banner for that company as the calendar turns to 2026 and they really get going with their business model. When you look at the ability, the 50-50 nature of that fight, Chris, do you think Lester Martinez is the guy we're talking about Monday? When you look at this card, is Lester Martinez because he has the hand speed, he has the power, and Christian Mbilli, that come forward kind of style, is this the fight and the winner we're talking about on Monday?
Yes, I'm going to take that back a step. This is going to steal the show. This fight is a can't miss. I don't expect the main event. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I don't expect the main event to be that great. I don't think it's going to be a very. I don't think it's two trains meeting, like it might be maybe billed as. It might be as casual fans are tuning in expect it to be. I don't expect that. I expect an extremely tactical, strategic fight. These two are fighting for everything, absolutely everything, and stylistically, I don't think they have a deep bag to go other ways. I don't see either one of these guys coming out and then flashing a jab and lateral movement. That's not in the playbook for either one of these guys. They're going to go out there. They're going to meet in the center. It is two trains on the same track. They're going to meet and they're going to bang. And Billy is an engine guy. The guy has an endless gas tank. He throws big bombs. He's physically strong. He's huge for the weight class. He trains super hard. I've been around him. I know his trainers. I know the way that he trains. I've heard stories endlessly about how hard and diligent this man trains. Lester Martinez, who I don't think the world knows much about or anything about, and we know a lot about him because he's fought on our air, is phenomenal. I mean, he is technically super sound, so tight, throws a ton of punches. I believe CompuBox has him at 80 punches around average, which is insane for a 68-pounder. He's also a big puncher. He's the kind of guy, I'm not going to say he's a knockout guy, but he can. And he's also a guy who breaks you down, beats you up, but does it through a technical style with great hand speed, really short hand speed, really good hand position. His elbows are in the right place. Technically, he's very, very good. He's in and out. He's also got a fantastic camp around him. Bomac is an extremely smart and strategic trainer. These guys go out there and they live the life, and they go out there and they perform. They execute. And that's the biggest thing about this sport, being at the highest level, being able to execute. You got these two guys who are going to meet, and I can't not see this fight stealing the show. The winner of this fight absolutely steals the night, gets the performance bonus, which in boxing, the performance bonus is everyone's talking about you, and your next paycheck is going to be huge. We don't have a $50,000 or $200,000 performance bonus in boxing, but we get paid a lot in the next fight. I think the winner of this fight is going to get that boxing style performance bonus where everyone's talking about them on Monday because, man, did you see that guy, Lester Martinez? Did you see that guy? And Billy, holy cow, I can't wait till he fights again. That's exactly what you want fighting at a card of this magnitude. And I think these guys are in a fantastic position to steal the show and step into a huge position in their next fight. And I agree with Lance. I think this is essentially regardless if Canelo wins, I think the winner of this fight probably gets a Canelo fight.
What I'm curious about, Paulie, and you've been critical of this, looking too good? This idea that Lister might look too good and not get that opportunity because of that? What's your thought?
Yeah, I don't think. Maybe if it's Mbilli, because he's kind of one-dimensional, but I don't think Canelo would fight Lester Martinez. I don't see that happening.
What if Lester struggles? What if Lester really struggles but gets the win? I still think it happens. I think
if he struggles,
he's early enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You could see Canelo going against Eubank more than that, though. You know, Canelo would probably go for a Eubank money fight, and if Lester struggles, I mean, you always got to look for the lowest hanging fruit with Canelo, because that's his mentality, especially of late. But
also, if you're Canelo's team, do you go for a Eubank next and then let Lester get better? Or Mbilli.
Mbilli's not going to get better for sure. He's kind of one-dimensional to begin with. If he wins, he just beats you on pressure, so he's easy to offset. Lester, could get better, but I don't think Canelo cares if he doesn't fight Lester or not. You know, I just think he'd go for the Eubank fight because it's
same thing he did with Benavidez.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen.
No, I think the Eubank fight happens no matter what.
But. Yeah, the Eubank.
No, but I'm saying
Eubank fight is a low-hanging fruit, and it's
Martinez
for a lot of money. Yeah, Martinez. I don't think he cares, and I think that. I think in reality, that would be the shame of everything, is that the winner of this fight, especially if he looks good, if Lester looks good, like I think he can, wouldn't get a title fight. And we're back in the same situation that we were with Benavidez or Morrell, where they're just too good to get a title shot. That's why, hater to love it when I say it, but dude, that's why I feel like Crawford would do us all a favor in getting rid of this guy, so the titles would get vacated, because Crawford wouldn't defend it at 168. He would vacate the titles, and this weight class with so many good fighters would finally be able to breathe, and the deserving fighters would get title shots. Guys like the winner of Lester and Mbilli.
Then we lose 2 stars.
We lose 2 stars. Yeah, I get it. We lose 2 stars. And why don't we create new stars? Because the current star is the one debilitating the entire sport by fighting one cab driver after another. You got to let stars rotate themselves automatically. So this weight class would at least be able to breathe.
Oh, well, you can't blame the fighter.
You got to do right for the sport that did right for you. Come on, dude. I don't believe in that. So if the weight class will be able to breathe, if Crawford will win and retire, you would have guys like Lester getting title shots, or Mbilli. You would have guys like Diego Pacheco getting title shots. You would have, a weight class that has some pretty solid guys in being able to, make fun fights, and they fight each other, because now nobody's in the Canelo sweepstakes.
I'm gonna put you in the spotlight right now.
Go ahead.
You're 35 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You fighting the best guy possible, or you fighting the biggest money?
If I'm the undisputed champion.
If you're 35 years old.
You got to talk about the undisputed champion, though. Yeah, you can't hold the titles hostage, dude.
If they're letting you hold the titles hostage, and you're 35 years old, are you fighting the biggest, baddest motherfucker
guy?
in the
I don't
world?
know. I'm not in that position, but I've always been a pretty big principle guy, bro. I'm always big on principle. I don't know. I mean, you got to put me in that position, I guess. But this guy, if I made $400 million in my career already, do I want to destroy my sport, or do I want to keep it going? I think I'd rather not destroy my sport.
Hey, Chris,
I already made $400 million. If I'm starving, yeah, okay.
Hey, Chris,
something else in the equation.
Paulie, that's why they say let the managers manage, the coaches coach, and the fighters fight. That's why sometimes it matters. You say, hey,
but then
I know this is what you want to do, but this is what we have to do.
But then you know what? Then the funny thing is, the sanctioning bodies get all angry when they get kicked out of the sport here in this card, dude. The reason people get on the sanctioning bodies on everybody's nerves is because you could have enforced mandatories for guys like Canelo. You never enforce mandatories against guys like Canelo until Canelo says, you know what, this guy's garbage enough. I'll fight him. He's my mandatory. When Avni Yildirim, then all of a sudden you got an excuse. I had to fight him. He was my mandatory. That bum was your mandatory. But when guys like Jamal Charlo at middleweight, who was very good at middleweight, and I'm not talking about the current Jamal Charlo, I'm talking about that when he was your mandatory. Oh no, we don't fight him. Or Benavidez is the mandatory. No, you don't fight him either. You don't do that. But Avni Yildirim is your mandatory. Him you fight. So
but he fought 4 times that year.
Dude,
I got to
forget about the 4 times that year.
He fought a lot of tough guys that year. He didn't
fight the best guy in his middleweight division when he was middleweight champion, and he didn't fight the best guy in his 168-pound division when he was 168-pound champion, dude.
He fought Billy Joe Saunders. He fought Callum
and none
Smith,
of them were as good as Benavidez, and none of them would have beat Benavidez.
No, they weren't. Guess what?
I'm talking about when you're the champion.
Benavidez wasn't known as being that guy at that point.
I don't care. He fought those guys, and you can fight those guys. I'm not saying he ducked Benavidez to fight those guys. I'm not saying he ducked Benavidez to fight those guys. Those were unifications. Those were justifiable fights, and that's when I enjoy it too. I'm talking about at the end of the day, the best guy in your weight class, in your time that you spent at 168, the best guy that came around at 168, no matter who you beat, was David Benavidez. That was the best guy in your weight class.
But you mentioned
and
you
ducked
I'm like,
him.
well, if that timeline, if we're talking about that timeline.
No. Now you step a little out of line yourself. Now I'm talking about Yildirim. I'm talking about Yildirim in the Jamal Charlo fight. Jamal Charlo at 160 was his mandatory.
Was supposed to be Jamal.
Exactly, and instead he fought out Yildirim. Okay, it was his mandatory. That's what I'm saying. We're not talking about the mandatory situation at 168. I'm talking about he did the exact same thing at 160 and nobody talks about it. What he did at 168, he also did at 160. He avoided his difficult mandatory, who was Jamal Charlo, who at that time was very difficult. I'm not talking about the Jamal now. I'm talking about that Jamal Charlo at 160.
He was only at 60 to fight Triple G. 60 was
not his.
I
hear you.
He didn't
but
want
he
to spend
fought out
any time
Yildirim when and said, yeah, that was my mandatory. What am I going to do?
That was a 68. Yildirim was 68.
Gentlemen,
was
we're getting our
68?
own
Was
little
he?
press
100%.
conference here, but it starts in 7 minutes. Just so you guys know, 7 minutes.
You got the back and forth for the press conference.
We got back and forth. 7 minutes to the press conference.
If they show up on time.
If they show up on time.
This is probably going to be better than press conference.
These things have a tendency not to start on time, these press conferences.
There's probably going to be more back and forth and arguing on this than the press conference.
Yeah, but
Bob, I want to let Bob in. Bob's laughing. I think he wants to say something. Bob, go for it.
I want to point to.
By the way, this is my life, Bob.
And he won the title before against Matthew Hatton.
Jimmy's
Just to
stuck
top it off.
between us every day.
I want to point to Lester Martinez. You know, I was fortunate enough to take Carlos Adames to his first world title, and we sparred Lester Martinez. And I could tell you, you know, outside of something out of the ordinary, I don't know, his shoulder goes out or just a shot he doesn't see coming, Lester Martinez could fight his ass off, and that is a
yeah, we know.
You know, and like I said, you know, Adames has sparred with Benavidez. You know, I've been around all, and sparring is sparring. We get that, but you can get some glimpses of some things over a period of time. And Lester Martinez, man, I'm so excited to watch him. I think it is going to be the fight of the night.
And you know what? With the sparring you're talking about, that reminds me, Crawford has been sparring with Lester in preparation for this.
Don't forget it.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Weapon.
Don't forget. Adames used to spar with Crawford too. So you know what I mean. So
wow. So
Martinez being in there with that guy, that's a bad boy.
Can you tell the world how good Adames is? Bob, can you do me a favor? Tell the world how good Adames is. I've been telling people. I get flack constantly because they say I got people tell me,
you know why?
I'm like, you're wrong.
Because you know why?
No, he's a hell of a talent. For sure.
I'm big on Adames too, but man, not cutting off the ring against Shiraz really disappointed me.
Yeah.
He still won the fight. He still won the fight. Stop.
I know.
He still won the fight.
But the other thing is though, you got to be in the ring though more too. You can't fight one time a year. If you really want to be great, you can't always want the bag to be exactly what it is. You got to your point there. Sometimes you got to say, hey, it's my career. I want to be great. This has to happen. I have to have.
Yeah,
these
but Bob,
fights.
you know, Carlos. He's not that kind of personality.
No, I know. Obviously, live with him.
I know him well. He's a great guy.
But that sometimes you have to be. You have to do it if you want to be.
You learn
great.
that as you go, though.
I have a question for you, Lance. One of the things Paulie talked about, and we're kind of dancing around and talking around a little bit, is the health of the sport of boxing, right? What is good for the sport? What is good for the fighters? What is good for the management? What is good for the fans? They're not always the same thing. The one element here with this whole, as you said, maybe a takeover of boxing, starting with this TKO development, is a lot of people are going to be talking about the health of boxing itself. How much do you think that's going to be a subject of debate, a talking point around this fight?
Yeah, it is a huge talking point, and Dana White himself has said that the sport is void of major stars. This whole story, this whole narrative that you guys have been talking about with Lester Martinez is so perfect for this opportunity, because if Lester Martinez is impressive in this fight against Mbilli, and he would get a fight like against Canelo Alvarez, Canelo's got 2 fights left on his deal with Ricky LLC, right?
Yeah.
So can you imagine Canelo versus Lester Martinez, and if Lester is who we think he is, him winning that fight and stamping himself as this, rising new young champion. And that's exactly what the sport needs. I mean, even when we go back to, a generation ago when Lennox Lewis knocked out Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson's back to the canvas with the blood coming out of his nose and eyes. I mean, that was an epic scene, and that's a passing of the torch. And sometimes the sport needs that. And like you guys are saying, Paulie, so well, is that sometimes you need to put yourself in the, you need to throw yourself into that fire so the sport can move on and become better. And so we need events like that to occur. It is going to be interesting to see the stable that TKO builds. You know, obviously, some of the guys that we're going to see on this card and the guys that are actually fighting tonight down the street at the Fountain Blue are some of their rising young prospects. But Callum Walsh and Bohacek is an older guy. But these are some of the guys that TKO is going to be hanging its hat on as it gets started. And can they manifest this, you know, this new crop of young fighters into something that's going to save the sport? I mean, that's what we're all watching, and I think that's going to be a point of debate that's going to take us all the way through next year.
We got Deborah in the comments who said, "I'm turning into a Canelo fan." Listen, if he would love the health of the sport and look out for the health of the sport, because I think you have, with great power comes great responsibility, to quote the movie Spider-Man. Yeah. I think, you know, it would be easier to be a fan of him.
To quote the comic book, not the movie. Quote the comic book. That's like quoting a pastor for the Bible. Yeah. You're quoting a comic book.
Comic book. Yep.
But you know, because you know there's a great responsibility there, you know, and Lance makes a great point. Yeah, if Lester is who we think he is, and then if Canelo would fight him, but
I don't see that.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. See, Bob, you're on my wavelength here. Yeah, I think, you know, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. Yeah, too. But you know, she's not. Realist. She's my aunt.
For the betterment of the sport, those fights would be better, obviously. But the thing is, I'm a realist though too. Where people are going to say, hey, when Tom Brady was at his best with the Patriots, you don't play the Patriots every week. So that's what these managers are telling them on the back end.
But to be champion, you got to beat the Patriots. That's the thing. Not everybody's champion in the league, so that's a bad analogy by these managers.
Once he gets the business side of it and the fighting side of it. So once he,
but if you're a champion, it's a different responsibility. That's where the sanctioning body is supposed to uphold that too.
I'm talking about the managers, Paulie. The managers on the back end. You know,
they can only do what the sanctioning bodies allow them to. When the sanctioning bodies get kicked in their ass out of the ring on Saturday, and I'm defending the sanctioning bodies in a lot of times this week, but bro, you got yourself to blame with doing stuff like that.
Exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, when we talk about the health of the sport and everything around the sport, Lance, we can't notice you're in the loading dock outside, not in the press conference itself.
That is the coolest place to do a podcast ever.
Dude, tell us what's going on, man.
He got the Canelo bus behind him.
Yeah, no, it was good. Well, maybe he'll come by. He'll look at you guys. No, guys, listen, I mean, this is sometimes this happens in this business, and we're just going to roll with the punches, literally. I mean, they can't stop us from doing our job. We were actually, I think it was in the Eric Raskin story, but we were banned in the Times Square card as well. But the bottom line is that these guys can do whatever they want. The fighters all want to talk to us. The fighters are always going to be there for us. They can't stop them from talking to us. We are going to get access to fighters. We're going to get access to all the people that we've had relationships over time, and whatever agenda they are trying to force down our throats, we are going to, you know, continue to discuss this sport in a real way. And we're going to, you know, ask sometimes the tough questions and write the tough stories. It's nothing personal. You can run down the line of all the major players in the sport, Bob Arum, Richard Schaefer, all these guys. Dana White, we've always had screaming matches, but at the end of the day, you move on to the next day. And if these guys can't handle that, and if they want nothing but you know, positive kiss ass type stories and coverage, then they can get that from someone else, but it won't be from Boxing Scene, and it won't be from our show either.
But
and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Lance, I think I speak for all of us when I say that we thank you and appreciate you battling for journalistic integrity to make sure that the media stays the way it is, and we have two sides, and it's not just a one-way street. Because not only does that hurt the sport, it hurts the fans, and anything that hurts the fans is ultimately going to be downstream of what happens in the future. So you're not only battling for journalistic integrity, you're battling for the integrity of the sport on a whole as we move forward, as our fans are and the people who watch the sport and the lifeblood of what all these fights are about are well in tuned with what's happening, and they're getting both sides, and they think that this is a real thing. This is not WWE. This is a sport. It's all about competition. So I I thank you for doing what you're doing, because it's not easy to be out there doing what you're doing right now, sitting in a basically in a parking lot doing this amazing podcast with us, and it's really cool to see even that background.
Hey,
Thank you so much, Chris. But listen, I know you guys are the same ways, and by the way, you're banned too.
Hey, real quick though, too, Lance. The greatest thing about our sport is the fighters themselves are the most. They're willing to give accessibility more than any other athlete. You know, I've been around pro football players, basketball players, baseball players, and fighters give accessibility and access to people more than any. That's so ingratiating. The fighters, the heart of a fighter, like no other sport, what they do, and you know, so you're always going to have access to them, whether the promoters are doing this or not, because that's just ingrained in who they are, especially with the sport of boxing.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very, very true. We're waiting right now on the press conference to start. As Paulie called it, should have started a couple minutes ago. A little late, you know.
Yeah,
They get there when they get there.
That's the complication with the live.
It is.
You want to cover a press conference live, it doesn't always go that way.
We're waiting now for it to begin. Canelo versus Crawford. Of course, the press conference getting ready to start. Before we do, this idea that the questions are going to be directed not just at the fighters, but as Lance Puggar just mentioned, TKO, the brand, what's going to happen with the future of boxing. This could be an historically significant, not just fight, but fight card and fight moment for the sport of boxing. Another angle, another way to look at this, Paulie, is all this stuff puts eyes on boxing. It creates competition. It creates controversy. In the end, could that be good for the sport?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a curiosity, right? I mean, there's this kind of fight, I think, is more impressive. Like the champ Chris Algieri was talking about, you know, the undercard, I think, is, you know, what could steal the show here. You know, I think the main event draws a lot of casuals, though, you know, and casuals, you know, they may be attracted to some of the undercard fights, and you may make some new fans because you make such good undercard fights. I don't know. I think boxing has to work more from a grassroots level up in order to, you know, bring in new fans and be more consistent in this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to make good fights and solid fights. This card has a little bit of everything, right? It has, for the hardcore fans, it has a really solid undercard, in my opinion, with very competitive matchups. And then in your main event, it's an intrigue fight where boxing fans are still going to be intrigued because it's two major players in the sport, and casuals think this is the best fight that can be made in the sport, so they'll tune in because they think it's the best fight that can be made. So I think you have a little bit of everything for everyone, and I think it's a solid card.
What I'm curious about on the training side, one of the things about Lester Martinez, of course, fought for us here at Pro Box TV. You can't simulate the kind of environment these guys are going to be in. What can you do as a coach to get a guy mentally ready for a stage they've never seen before? We're talking about Canelo and Crawford. They've been here before. The rest of the undercard has not. They've never seen anything like this. How do you get somebody ready?
Well, you know what?
Can you?
Well, to the best of your ability, obviously. But what's going to be really interesting, though, too, is it's not even at the MGM. It's not in Mandalay Bay. It's not, you know, in New York. It's in a football stadium. You know what I mean? So you're going to a whole new level of extreme to be on that platform. So their buttholes better not pucker up. This is their opportunity to get after. But I'm expecting Lester Martinez to come out victorious in this fight. Unless something out of whack happens where he gets.
I got him making a big statement, man. I think he stops.
I do too. I think he's an animal. And I think as long as he doesn't get hit with something he doesn't see coming, which
can happen to anybody.
It could happen to anybody. You get a little bit too aggressive, you start biting too hard on that bone. But outside of that, I think that dog's going to hunt. And I think he's going to come up with his prey. And
I'll say one thing too. When you talk about how do you trainers prepare the fighter for the moment, Jimmy, I think I don't understand. Sometimes I've heard that question before. And I want Lance and Champ Chris's output too. You know, I do get it, having gone from smaller fights to bigger fights, and it does, you know, your butthole does tremble a little bit in those early big ones before you start to get used to the atmosphere. But at the same time, I also always dreamt of being in those fights. So, in those big arenas, in those star-studded famous places and main eventing. So when fighters when there's the question of, oh, those fighters going to be ready. I mean, what was your goal when you stepped into a boxing gym? Was it not to be that level of fighter one day? Was that not your dream? Is that not why you started boxing to begin with? That's also something that I never understand that part of it either, because in my mind, yes, there's, especially when you're first getting there's those nerves when you get to that level in the early stages of your world-class part of your career. But at the same time, I remember reminding myself in the dressing room, this was my dream, to be here. This is where I belong. This is where I wanted to be. What else do you tell yourself? I don't understand. What do you train all those years for? Keep fighting in ballrooms?
They overcome it, You got
to overcome it, but you also got to be in the moment, too.
The good ones overcome it, and some guys succumb to it. It's just what's in their DNA.
And Deborah, I love you, too. It's all tongue-in-cheek. Don't worry about it.
Champ.
Chris, go ahead.
Paulie, and I'm going to reiterate exactly what Bob just said. Listen, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid too, and I thought I was going to be that. I thought I was going to be president. I thought I was going to be, you name it. I thought I was going to be Captain America. I thought I was going to be the Hulk. I thought I was going to be Batman. That's all great and good. Yeah, I've been dreaming about this since I was a kid. Then you get punched in your damn face. Then you go to a gym. Then you deal with stuff. Exactly what Bob said. When you get to that point, you either got it or you don't. It's in your DNA. I know a ton of guys, just like you guys said earlier, that could fight in a closet and be world champions. Getting under those lights is a different guy. That person needs to have a DNA that's different. That person needs to be an absolute warrior from a warrior bloodline with the blood of kings from generations beyond. We are special. The people who can do it under the lights are special. I don't think you develop that.
No, you don't.
I don't think that's the thing.
You don't, because I've seen guys where, you come back to the corner, guy's phenomenal, everything is going great, you're dominating the whole fight. He gets cut for the first time. Like, holy shit, this is my blood. I'm like, yeah, boom. The lights just turned out and just shut down. I get Hector Garcia with the tank fight. We're in a competitive fight. He's my fighter. Obviously, I did great things with him. Matter of fact, he was with Garcia for a little bit before me, and even Robert Garcia told me, he goes, I couldn't believe you took him to a world title. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about when we first won the world title, obviously. But then the Gervonta fight, when he took the hit, and he came back to the corner, and he says, "Hey," I said, "Son, you're okay. You never even went down." And in that moment, he had to make a decision. Do I want to be great? This is what you signed up for. I know people say, well, that's extreme. He could get hurt. Looked at one of my other corner guys, and the other corner guy goes, okay, well, and then he got the out. And if you want to be great, when that split second happens, you have a chance to go this way or that way.
In modern boxing, that's why Gervonta Davis picked him as an opponent. But that's another conversation.
It is another conversation. Lance, thank you so much for everything you're doing. I know you got to go. You'll be covering the press conference.
Lance, thanks for joining us, bud.
Anytime. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, guys.
You are the man, standing up for integrity in boxing journalism. Lance Pugmire from Boxing Scene. But this idea that certain people can't connect those things, and I always thought it was weird. I was fighting MMA, and guys would get in there and freeze up, and I go, "What do you think is going to tickle you? What did you think was going to happen here? Take a leg kick and you just panic?" And I go, "Well, this is what kickboxing is like. I don't know what to tell you." But this idea that some people can't connect that to their brain, they can't feel it in a certain way, right? Yeah. And certain people
function.
can
Feel it and function at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to feel it and then function.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
It's true, but another thing that I want to get to, do you think people are overrating or underrating the last fights of these fighters? Because there's a lot of recency bias. But if you look at the Terence Crawford fight, Chris, you were a wrestler. Terence Crawford was a wrestler. He likes to get in there kind of big man guys. He likes to move them around and bully them a little bit. Couldn't do that against Israel Madrimov, and didn't have a great fight that night. This idea, we talk about tactically what he can and can't do, but he's used to being inside the bigger guys. Not going to have that against Canelo. How much of a factor do you think that is?
First off, I'm going to start blanket statement. I throw out both their last fights. Madrimov is a completely different style than Canelo. And you mentioned the wrestling. Guess what? Madrimov was a wrestler too.
Yep.
Trained in Sambo. He is a world-class everything. He grappled, jiu-jitsu, you name it. He's those
Eastern European
guys,
man. Yep.
They do everything. So I think The critique on Crawford for that fight falls more on the fact that Madral is way better than people give him credit for. And I think it wasn't that Crawford didn't look good. It was that Madral looked great because Madral is a very, very good fighter. He's a very athletic guy, and he has all those other skills and attributes that I mentioned. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. The only thing I take with any kind of weight to it is the fact that it was 154 and now we're 2 weight classes up. That's a whole different thing. Yeah. In terms of performance, though, I actually look at the performance as a positive because we saw him dig deep. He was down. And Champ, Paulie, you mentioned this in the Bivol fight. I look at those two fights kind of similarly, and I go, you're fighting these Eastern European guys who are very tricky and very difficult in terms of their styles. They're hard to hit, they're hard to get. Hard to deal with. They're very, very consistent. They stick to the game plan throughout. At the last 3 rounds of the fight, Canelo could have won that fight against Bivol. He packed it in. At the end of the fight with Crawford and Madrimov could have won that fight. He almost did. Crawford went for the gusto and fought his ass off and dominated the last couple rounds and pulled the fight out of the fire. Completely different, opposite paths in 2 similar situations. Higher weight, similar type guy.
Hey, Chris.
Very, very difficult.
Chris,
yes,
but
sir.
you know what's funny about what you just said, though? You gave the caveat, though. Crawford sold out against Madrov. Canelo didn't sell out against Bivol. Canelo was the smaller guy going against Bivol. Now it's going to be flipped for Canelo in this case. You know what I mean?
But Crawford was already the smaller guy.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's going to be flipped in this fight, though. Will Canelo turn out and go for it?
Sell out against a smaller guy.
Will he sell out against a smaller guy?
Right.
And if he doesn't,
based on what you're saying before,
and if he doesn't, I think it hurts his legacy. If he doesn't, I think it hurts his legacy. Will he still be Canelo? Yes, but I think it hurts his legacy, personally, for me.
So this idea, and I think it is a very important idea. The last time we saw Canelo really pushed was, obviously Bivol beat him in victory. It was the second fight with Triple G. But this idea that someone is going to have to dig deep, and the person who can dig deeper might be the guy we're talking about. If you can see right now, the press conference is about to start. They're showing us a video highlight of both fighters. As soon as they're set and ready to go, we will throw it so you guys can hear it yourselves. But yeah, you guys can go check it out yourselves, listen to us, watch the press conference. But right now, we're looking at it. They're playing the video package, and I gotta tell you, Paul, they do a great job, man. Yeah, they get you hyped for this fight.
On Netflix, they got the money behind them to make things good, man, you know? There's a reason why movies don't go to movie theaters anymore. They go to Netflix. Netflix got the money for that stuff, you know?
Look at that. There's the stage, baby.
You find yourself as a boxing insider, which all of us are. We all work in combat sports to a various level. You still get hyped, Bob. You still watch stuff like this. You still get hyped. You still end up being a fan at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a sport that we love, you know?
Yeah.
We gave our blood, sweat, and tears to this sport, and I've been doing it my whole life, and it's a sport I love. So, yeah, I still get the goosebumps.
And here it is. Hey, we appreciate all of you on social media joining us, by the way. A lot of action on Twitter tonight.
Let's go.
Remember, hashtag boxing scene today. Give us your questions. Give us your comments as this is getting going.
Oh, it's go time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Crawford can be a 3-division undisputed.
Oh, that would be. But to your point, if he does something like this, you're in that Sugar Ray Robinson type category.
Yeah, it's pretty. I hadn't thought about that part. That the fact that the undisputed title gives him 3 weight classes, and nobody's done 3 weight classes in the 4-belt era. Shoot,
I literally look at this as Sugar Ray Robinson versus Joey Maxim.
Yeah,
this is Sugar Ray Robinson was what pound for pound was defined as.
It was made for him.
But Champ, Robinson lost that fight because of the heat. There's no heat.
He was beating Maxim.
There's no heat to suffer Crawford out.
Guess what, Paulie? He didn't do it though.
Yeah,
Doesn't
he was
matter.
beating Maxim up
He
too.
didn't do it.
Even the referee couldn't handle the 15 rounds. You know, they switched referees
Listen.
in that fight, right?
Ruby Goldstein.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. 12
So
rounds.
that's how
12
hard it
rounds.
was.
We're dorks.
12 rounds. This Robinson, right?
15
But
rounds was the
It's
fight.
15, wasn't it?
15
Yeah.
rounds. It was the fight.
And not
So-
even the referee could do the 15 rounds.
Hey, Chris.
Still, so it doesn't matter. He didn't do it. If Crawford does it, this is history.
The air-conditioned T-Mobile Arena will prevent the heat from being a factor.
There you go.
Well, also 12 rounds, but
Yeah.
for these guys, 12 rounds is short.
Hey, Chris, you think he's going to be able to hold ground, though, Crawford against Canelo? He's going to have to hold ground in
Canelo
spots.
coming out
he
the
has-
tank
I think
Canelo
Bob,
come out like a
Bob.
Cougine from Bensonhurst on 86th Street with
Bob, he's
the
got,
tank top.
Bob, he's got no
and the
choice. He's
sunglasses.
got no choice.
Now,
no
Hey,
choice.
now I know Canelo's really ready. He came in a wife beater.
Chris,
so
are you looking at
this?
this?
Guy's taking
He
it to
came
another
in like
level.
Black white feeder
Oh,
meets business.
man.
Yeah.
He came out like he
Wow,
was
what is
a,
he? He looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
This is-
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I'm sorry, bro. This is my guy right here, bro. This
Dude,
is,
you got to switch sides. This-
Cougine, 86th Street, freestyle music pumping.
by the way,
Gallo Negro, Gallo Negro, Gallo Negro.
I rock Zier Trans Am.
Paulie
T-top.
just changes
Hey,
that.
Paulie,
Paulie
remember-
just changes
Blood-
that. He's
that's
like
it.
that. You know what?
Oh, I love this look. Are you kidding me?
Paulie, remember
Change-
blood
change
in and
your
blood
bet.
out. Blood in and
Yeah.
blood out. There he
Blood
is.
in,
For
blood
the
out.
Mexicans.
Good.
Gallo
West Coast
Negro.
Mexicans, Yep.
Bob, I saw that in the movie theater with my parents.
No wonder you're a fighter.
Yeah. It's their fault.
All right. We can hear it fine.
Is it different than for either of them?
Canelo, did Canelo look more Italian to me? We got people are saying that now. You know,
Oh, man.
bro.
Nobody.
I
could be more
I gotta say though, you know, the look. I can't. I'm not knocking
So
it, bro.
he already won the press conference for you, Paulie. He
Yo,
won.
you kidding me? All he needed was a gold chain.
Yeah, his neck looks thick, bro. Wow, look at the.
And maybe the earring only in the left ear. Only 80s style.
His English again, very good.
Yeah, his English is really improved. He's got a chip on his shoulder tonight, man. Crawford
does.
Yeah.
Oh, he knows his whole
Yeah.
legacy's on the line.
Yeah.
This is from being good to great.
Yeah. That's the question we've had.
For the record, Crawford has fought twice since 2023. Same question.
Martinez still loves the sport of boxing, that he's living it, and that's why he's been so good at it. This idea that he might be kind of cashing it in, I think both guys are very aware of that in the way they're answering the questions. You know what I mean? They're both trying to say like how important it is to them.
Okay. Somebody has balls.
Now he heated him up.
And a fair question, by the way you put it. Hey, could we see that in the future?
Diplomatic answer by Canelo.
Yeah, diplomatic answer.
He's so used to ducking that he got the diplomatic. He diplomatically ducks.
Paulie, I don't ever want to get on your bad side. He might rip me one.
I call it like I see it, bro. I said years ago he was never gonna fight David.
By the way, Saturday, David Benavidez joining us in the pre-show. Get his comments about this whole thing.
He had some tremendous sparring for this fight too, Canelo.
Yeah, well, one of the guys here,
the Cuban Hernandez too.
About Saint John Ennis.
Shows you that he took this fight very, very seriously, which I was worried about. I thought he was gonna. Some of the things he was saying early on, it seemed like, yeah, I'm elite. He's not for elite fighters. He's smaller, but he brought in real sparring. That tells you a lot.
It does.
For sure.
Crawford
like
laughing.
that, yeah, like that laugh from
Crawford with
Crawford.
that smirk when they at the prediction of a knockout by Eddie Reynoso.
I like the question,
answer.
but you know his
Good
answer is very good too.
Mm-hmm.
Good
But
answer.
I like that someone asked about it. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Please, as an MMA fan, please don't do that to Ilya Taporia.
Thank
I
you
like
for
Ilya.
shutting down a stupid question.
Yeah, that's not smart.
Oof,
Okay.
strong,
Okay.
strong question about the Ali Act.
Sean, don't play.
Yeah, going after for it.
Well, that'll be his last question of the night.
They'll never let him give him a credential again. Sean got bulls.
But yes.
Good for him.
Dana's the king of bullshit.
That was a nice matador move.
Yeah.
Dana's not going to give him an interview.
No shot.
Yeah.
Banned, and banned.
I would love to see if he gave him the interview he's talking about.
Dane is in over his head, guys. This is the boxing media is different.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering how much of this would be in the press conference. Our first one.
Where Dana can prepare for his lies.
Well, you know,
Dana's like, I wasn't prepared to lie.
he gives him the interview.
We have a ring in the gym. Look at Canelo. That's what I mean. That's why I don't like the guy. You see, like how he sells out.
Yeah.
Like we have a ring in the gym. Like he's defending Dana already. You see what I'm saying? Like that's so slimy.
Paulie, who's writing the check?
That's so slimy. You see what I'm saying? Like
Paulie, who's
you see how
writing the
fast
check?
he was to sell out.
Are you
boxing?
writing the check?
You see, then people
We're
wonder why I
missing a
criticize the guy.
question. Shh, we're missing a question.
What does it mean?
Quote of the night. We have it already.
Sorry to quiet you for a stupid question. My
It
fault.
was who was walking out.
Right. Who's walking out with you?
Who cares, guys? We get the biggest fight around. We're talking about who's walking who out.
Maybe she writes for the gossip columns.
Yeah, could be some music.
Who cares?
Paulie, he said muchísimo.
Yeah.
He's bringing it.
Bro. He just he tried to shut down Sean on that question. He was if what Dana wasn't bad enough. About this guy. Kenny
Oh, it's
make
like Kenny Bayless.
Kenny making an appearance. He was a good referee. Of the media.
It's coming. Puro Mexico.
Got to go, man.
And jumping
like
up 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
That's a steep hill.
Solid
Good
question.
question.
Solid question. Yeah.
Very good question. Both these guys said they weren't interested.
Yeah.
And money?
Oh, man.
Good question, confident answer. Love it. Asking about the business. And he makes everybody money. That's why everybody works with him.
Yeah.
Oh, that was cold.
I like that.
She asked about what does Canelo have to do to be recognized by the big Mexican champions?
Yeah.
Because they criticize him.
Walter.
Water.
Jesus.
I like that answer from Crawford. He's just got a little more.
I
chip
don't
on his
like that
shoulder.
answer, Jimmy.
I-
Jimmy, I
please,
don't like that answer.
tell me-
I actually looked at the exact opposite of that.
Why?
Because he pointed out his own faults, which means he's reading comments and he's reading what people are saying about him. And then he said, "I'm fighting Canelo," meaning like I've made it to the pinnacle. I don't like that at all.
You don't like the happy to be here. We call it the happy to be here sometimes.
Kind of sound like that.
Yeah,
It kind of sounds like that. That's
But he did,
that's
but
not. I don't like that.
But a few minutes ago, he said he was the buckle, belt the ass.
Yeah, well, that shut down real quick.
Yeah.
And that question, that like, it's what have you done for me lately? And I think the true statement came out there. He's like, "Oh, people don't think I'm that good, but I got to the point where I can fight Canelo." That's what he's saying. He's like, I don't. That didn't give me any confidence.
Good point, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my boy from Germany.
This press conference is turning into the every media. I want to ask a question so I can hear myself ask a question.
Yeah,
This press
yeah.
conference. I mean,
A lot of hype questions.
I wonder how long this list was to get credentialed to step up to this mic.
Good question. Tactical question.
not really. He spent most of his career fighting bigger guys. He spent most of his career fighting smaller guys.
Compared to the other one, I think so.
Oh, yeah, Canelo runs with it. Yeah, I fought bigger guys. Yeah, a couple. But
He did fight bigger guys.
He did, but
he stepped up a lot.
Kovalev.
Kovalev and
Kovalev's
Bivol.
Bivol.
huge. Kovalev, Bivol. I mean, you understand. Like he transitioned up in weight class, and he's fighting guys who are bigger. I argue that he actually went up to fight bigger guys because they were slower.
Yeah.
I mean, they had speed advantage. So
He said he made more than 100 million.
I'm glad we haven't heard from Crawford in 15 minutes. I'm being facetious. Like we should. It's very one-sided.
Oh yeah.
More than that.
Yep. 100 million.
More than that.
Wow. This has degraded quite a bit in terms of
Yep.
what a press conference is.
Yeah.
Thank you for Crawford to stepping in. They muted the boos, by the way.
Paulie, after the number they just said, Lester Martinez, regardless of his performance, it's going to be tough to get him in the ring.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, Max Kellerman. You knew he was going to get some booze with that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think that was good by Max Kellerman.
Yeah, that was
a
lot of ass kissing. How much they pay him for that?
That's a bad ending to the press conference.
I'm glad Canelo stepped in there, though.
Yeah,
Let's go, Canelo.
Go, Canelo.
He just redeemed himself.
Wow.
He just redeemed
Paulie.
himself for trying to shit on Sean earlier when he was challenging Dana.
Wow.
Paulie, he won you on the way in and the way
Just
out.
when I think, yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah.
when I thought he couldn't sink any lower, he pulls a stunt like this and totally redeems himself.
Totally redeemed himself.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah, brother.
Wow, unbelievable. Robert Garcia is going to be joining us in a second. He's in the bathroom. He has a fighter who is going to be fighting in a few minutes. So the interesting thing about this press conference, I thought it ended poorly. Max Kellerman, I think, going a little bit off the rails at the end, but a very, very pro Canelo crowd. A lot of softball questions, but obviously the crowd very much behind Canelo. It's going to be Crawford is going to be booed. That's going to be the dynamic come Saturday. You have to agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's to be expected, though, right? I mean, listen, you fight Canelo, West Coast especially, that's going to be expected, and I think, we would be remiss to say Crawford doesn't expect that too. You know what I mean? I think, Crawford is going to mentally be prepared for that as well.
So, Coach Robert Garcia joining us now. Do you have us, Coach?
Yeah, I'm here.
I know you're in the bathroom. You got to fight a fight soon. But this idea, this press conference, very much favoring Canelo. He's going to have the crowd behind him. As a professional, does he feed off the crowd like he used to? Probably not. It's been a lot of big fights. But what's your thought on his reaction to the press conference, the fan reaction he was getting?
I like what I see. I see Canelo actually motivated more than in previous fights. He's ready to go out and do his job.
Now, if you look at Crawford himself, he seemed to have a little bit of an edge. It's like the crowd favoring Canelo. This guy was had a perennial chip on his shoulder, and I kind of like to see that still, that he likes being the underdog. He likes being underestimated. What do you think about Crawford and his attitude?
Look, Crawford he knows he's the underdog. He knows everybody, the whole crowd's going to be there for Canelo, so that motivates him a lot. I do give Crawford a chance. I've always said it. I've been open. I think Crawford could pull off a decision. But what I heard from Canelo and what I see in Canelo, a lot of confidence, a lot of support from the fans, and I think that's going to motivate him more. And I think we're going to have a great fight.
Chris, what'd you think? You mentioned it first with the tank top. His neck looking thick, man. His dude's big at 168. What's your thought on what you saw physically out of Canelo?
I'm not even physical. I'm just going to go off of aura. And Robert just put it perfectly in exactly what I was going to say. Listen, I went to my podcast today and I picked Crawford to win the fight. After this press conference, I'm really second guessing my pick because Canelo looked ultimately confident. The way he responded to things, the way that even Crawford was saying when he said something I really didn't like, and he said he acknowledged all of the criticism for his career and the holes that you can punch in it, which I don't know why you would do that. And then he said, but I made it to here. I made it to the point where I'm fighting Canelo, as if this is the end-all be-all, where I would like him to think as, I'm better than him. I'm going to beat him. This is another step in my legacy. I really did not like that answer. And I think it's way more telling when you look into someone's soul when that kind of answer comes out. This is making me rethink my pick a lot. And press conferences rarely do that because I think press conferences are mostly a waste of time. But some of those answers are really telling. Yeah, I'm in a bad place, guys, because I was thinking one thing and now I might be thinking another. But go on, talk amongst yourselves. Like that's.
All right, so Robert, were there any like vibes you got off this? Any answers that made you think one way or the other? Like Chris is talking about Crawford's answer, the intensity of the answers, anything like that made you sway your thinking a little bit.
Look, I like what Chris just said, and believe me, a little over a year ago, I talked to Crawford, and he personally told me, look, I'm not going to fight anymore unless I get the Canelo fight, and that will be my last fight. So that tells you a lot, too. So, Chris, you got a point, man. It's just the way boxing is, the way Crawford thinks right now. That's all he was waiting for. He got it, and, do I think he's got a chance? If he's mentally ready and prepared, I think he does. Because he's got the skills, he's got the footwork, he's got the combinations, because he's got the speed. So I think he could win a decision. But with what we've seen today and what I heard from him personally, a little over a year, he was looking for this fight for the big payday, and hopefully we don't see something embarrassing. Hopefully we don't see that. I would love to see a good fight.
What I'm curious about is, Bob, let me go to you. Some fights are decided early, some fights are decided late. Some fights in the opening, we know exactly what kind of fight we're going to get. You as a trainer, but an outside observer in this fight, are we going to know where we are in the first 4 rounds, or is this going to be a slow boil kind of fight?
I think we're going to know where we are in the first 4 rounds. Like I said, once Canelo hits him with that 105-mile-an-hour fastball, it's going to be the telltale. Yeah. Does he start getting on the bike? Is he over-moving? Or can he hold ground? If he can't hold ground in spots, sure, you got to box, but you got to hold ground in spots. And if he can't do that, he's going to be in some big trouble.
Can't be in flight.
Yeah, 100%. And to to Robert's point, if he's psychologically anything what Robert just said, Robert, you the hardest working man in boxing. My God, I see you everywhere. Every airport in America.
And it still makes time.
I don't know. How does he do it? I don't know. I don't wish his life on anybody as hard as he works. But to Robert's
I'm chasing
point,
you, Robert. I'm trying to work harder than you.
Yeah.
I'm chasing you.
Man, that man is everywhere. But like I said, I think when he gets hit with them big shots, and when he gets hit with some of them body shots from a real 68-pounder, I think that's going to be the telltale.
Yeah, in this idea, and Paulie, if he is kind of taking this for the payday, I know that's not generous of Crawford. Are we going to know that early, Paulie? Or is it going to be like, as it starts moving on, he starts getting a little tired, we're going to know?
Yeah, I think you'd know right away.
I think that's what happened with the Charlo fight. I really believe. I was in camp.
Generally, those guys pack it in immediately.
Well, I was with Charlo. I was in camp with him many times with Lauren. I thought I really believed he had a chance going into the fight.
Certainly have the talent. Yeah.
No, for sure, because I seen him in there with Laura many rounds. Then all of a sudden, again, he got hit with a bomb, and he got hurt a little bit and said, "Oh shit, I just want to go the distance."
Yeah, and that's what he did.
That's what he did. Went into
Canelo,
survival mode.
and Canelo obliged. I think
you're right on that. He did.
Canelo does oblige a lot if guys will, he'll kind of
make the agreement.
We'll see some knockdowns at times, especially of late. Everybody's saying Canelo can stop him. I don't know, especially of late. Canelo's not really been a stop you kind of guy. He's kind of just beats you into respecting him, and then he'll just kind of.
Well, with the Berlanga fight, to that point, he dropped him with a nasty shot.
Munguia too, Charlo. You get the knockdown, and then it kind of domesticates them and lets them know they're not going to win tonight, and if they cooperate, they won't get stopped. And he kind of obliges that. Yeah, I hope. I mean, this is getting so much hype, especially for Netflix and stuff like that. To have this kind of a level of fight, I think it's a chance for boxing to really put on and show on. And I think the undercard can do a lot of good things, but we need the main event here to show up and do good things. And so I'm confident that Crawford will show up to fight. I think there's a lot of legacy here on the line. I think he knows what it means to him. And win or lose, I think he's going to show up to fight. I don't see him pulling a Charlo where he's just kind of happy to be here. Plus, that BTA comment, belt to ass, the buckle. I mean, that has now he's got to live up to that. If you got to be the buckle,
yeah. But that was before he said, I got to the point of fighting Canelo. That I was very happy until he said that.
They match up face to face. They look kind of, they're not that big of a size difference here, guys. I mean,
I don't give a shit with that.
I don't give a shit what it looks like.
It's the bone structure.
He's thicker.
I've been around both guys. There's no chance they're the same size.
Yeah. Yeah, so Canelo's just a thick dude, really, really strong. For people who never saw it, when Carlos Baldomir fought Floyd Mayweather, before the fight, had compared himself to Sugar Ray Robinson, and he is just outboxing Baldomir like crazy. And I remember it was on the commentary team. They went, if Sugar Ray Robinson was this much better than you, you wouldn't be here. That's the difference between Floyd and Sugar Ray Robinson. Emmanuel Stewart said it. He went, Sugar Ray Robinson, he was better than you. You weren't there. Like he would have finished you in round 6. And he goes, that's one of the things when you talk about Paulie, that tendency to knock somebody down. Oh, go ahead, please.
Well, Jimmy, Canelo face first planted Baldomir. So
yeah, but that was I was an older Baldomir too, though, dude.
Was it though? How much older was he than when Floyd fought him?
Well, he was the champion when Floyd fought him. I think when Canelo fought him, he was just looking for an extra payday.
Was it 2 years later? What was it? 2 years later?
I think
it was a 23-year-old.
Fought Mayweather
Canelo?
in 2006.
Yeah,
he fought Canelo in 2010. 4 years later.
Yeah,
4 years later. Okay,
but
Canelo was 22. He was 22 years old.
Yeah,
and put him face first, ice face down.
But you fight guys that are shot when you're coming up like that. Yeah, that's the shot ex champions.
Face down.
Robert, I know you got to go soon. Just my question for you, man. When you look at Canelo and the debate we're having now about, he can hurt you. He doesn't just finish guys like he used to. Do you think we see that go for it, taking risks, as Bob said, Canelo Alvarez? Do we see that go for it, Canelo Alvarez, in this fight?
I think this Saturday we are gonna see it. Look, I see so many people there in the where the arena, wherever the weigh-in was. I mean, wherever the press conference is at, thousands of people showed up. the town has been dead. This last couple of days, I haven't seen nobody on the streets or anything. The casinos are dead. Nobody's around, but people showed up. People showed up today. People showed up today for the press conference. If he gets that support the day of the fight, I think he's gonna go out and fight. I think he's gonna go out and look for that knockout and try to win the fight by knockout. I think he will try.
Robert, do your thing. Ooh. Best of luck to you tonight, man. Amazing coach. As Bob says, you are the hardest working man in boxing.
Best coach in boxing right now, too.
Guys,
no two ways about it.
Thank you, guys.
And one of the most humble, by the way, Bob. He'll never tell you that himself. He's the hardest working guy in boxing. But this idea, gentlemen, that both guys kind of said the right things, but it's more we saw a lot of softball questions, but man, the pro Canelo crowd, just the element definitely being in Canelo's favor. That was my biggest takeaway from the press conference. Chris, I know that the answer from Crawford, you don't like it all. Is that your biggest takeaway?
Yes. No. It's the only takeaway. Press conferences are stupid.
Yeah.
You learn nothing. You learn nothing. When you say like, oh, it's a pro Canelo crowd. Yeah, of course it was. It's Canelo in Vegas. Like of course it was. But when Crawford acknowledged that he made it to the big show and I got the guy, and then we hear from Robert Garcia, talked to him a year ago, go, I don't want to fight anymore, but if I get the Canelo fight, I'll fight. That's super telling. Super telling. It makes me think, do we see, it's funny that we're talking about this, Mikey Garcia, the brother of Robert, who takes the paycheck for suspense, right? Goes out there, doesn't get hurt, finishes the fight, makes some time money, didn't really care. Is he already checked out like Mikey was when he fought Spence? I've never thought Crawford could be that guy until just now. Maybe that's there. I still don't think he will, but it makes me question a little bit. And this is the most divisive press conference I've ever seen. I've never cared about press conferences. I don't think you can learn a goddamn thing from them. That answer really sticks with me. And then we follow up with Robert, and it just solidifies what I saw and thought and heard. I don't know, man. This makes me think a lot of different things. I'm not changing my pick, but it makes me think.
I'm sticking with belt to ass.
You're sticking with belt to ass.
Yeah.
So,
now, listen, I'm sticking with. I said Crawford. I'm not gonna go. Flip side.
Equivocating.
Flip flop. I said Crawford.
Maybe
like,
tomorrow Canelo shows up so much bigger that you might flip sides. So
I'm no, I can't. I can't now. I'm already in. I'm 10 toes.
Canelo takes off the tank top for the weigh-in. Maybe as you think it, maybe he beats him.
Yeah, maybe
I'm 10 toes deep.
Maybe some swole, bro.
Paulie, I'm all the way in, bro.
Canelo might make it weird for you tomorrow, bro. I don't know.
Don't make it weird, bro. By the way, trending number 2 on Twitter right now. Join us. #BoxingScene today. Let us know what you're thinking about this press conference and how it made you look at the fight. Coach, you know as well as anybody, like Chris said, press conferences are bullshit. Fighters lie. We have guys go, greatest camp ever. I'm feeling great. And afterward, my left arm was broken, but I made it through. This idea that you're kind of trying to read behind the lines, but do we put too much behind it? Because it's fodder for us to talk about.
Well, like anything in life, sometimes you have fighters where, that guy's a quitter and he quit in a fight. And then you fight the guy and he beats the shit out of you. He wasn't a quitter tonight. So it all depends on what you come in with that mindset at that time. And then you'll come to a point in the fight where there's a crossroads where he's going to impose his will or you're going to impose your will. And that's the time where greatness comes, where you say, you know what? I'm flipping the switch. We're going for it. We're going. If he put me out, then it is what it is. That's where you elevate. Will Crawford do that? So like you said, prep conference, I don't get too much into this. They're thinking, they're processing this.
You also got to look at the way that Crawford answers certain questions in the press conference. Like that question about, we want to harp on one answer he gave. What about the question that the woman asked him about his legacy and where does that leave him? And what was his answer? His answer was that basically they won't even be a debate anymore after he's done with this fight. They won't be even. Right now it's only a debate because he hasn't fought this fight yet. And after this fight, they won't even be a debate. So you can nitpick answers. Like champ, you nitpick that he's arrived to Canelo. Somebody else might nitpick the fact that he might say there's no debate. I'm nitpicking the belt to ass. But
the thing is though, too, to the point of like
that's not nitpick though. That's not nitpick though. That's a statement to be like, That's like being out there like, I'm whipping your ass. Okay, cool. Thanks. You're
No,
supposed
but what
to say
about
that.
the
Like,
but the response to the
just because it was clever. Just because it was clever.
But the
doesn't make it
response to
true.
there won't be any weight after this fight, that's a hard statement.
You
too.
saw
When he told the
James
woman
Jones,
when
by
they-
the way. Man, Crawford legacy is about to get ruined for $1. A lot of dollars. First off,
But you know what though? I think
it's
people.
more than $1.
more than $1.
But to Robert Garcia's point,
I think it's like 30 to 50 million.
Yeah, $50 million. Yeah. Go ahead.
a lot of
A lot of
cheese.
dollars. Yep.
But
A lot of Benjamins, right?
Yeah, to Robert Garcia's point where he said he had talked to him and he said he was thinking about he was done with the sport unless he got like the Canelo. You can also look at it this way though too. I've accomplished everything I can unless it's another
Gets my juices flowing.
Yeah,
That's the only
something
kind of fight that
that
gets my
where
juices
can get
flowing.
me to the mountaintop, something that I can get up for,
Get motivated for.
get motivated for. You can look at it that way. Hey, this is everything now. This fight here that I did get can wash out everything.
Nights
that I've
like
done
this,
to it. So,
nights
exactly.
like this,
So that could take him to that next level
Night-
in that
Bob,
point.
that's a great point. That's a great point. And that's the point that
when you
I
go
was
when you go into camp,
banking
you know.
on.
Well,
That's the point that I was banking on.
if
'cause
I
know
had
you
to
chose
bet, I
Canelo.
think if I had to bet, I think he's that type of guy. You mean I'm getting this fight? Okay, I'm gonna leave no stone unturned to bring it. Again, my caveat is always going to be, like Tyson always said, we all got a plan until we get punched in the face.
yeah.
And can he handle
Right.
that?
So Bob, me and you have the similar idea there. I think that Crawford is that guy, type of guy where he's got his last chance. He's going to go for it all the way. I actually just think he can pull it off. I know you're going Canelo.
I'm going Canelo.
Crawford.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going Crawford. We're putting that is what it is. But like, I think we're both on the same page there. I think he's going to go for it. You think he's going to go for it and he's going to fall short. I think he's going to go for it and pull it off. And
I'll tell you what, man.
We're not far off.
No, my hat would be off to him like nobody. And I have all the respect in the world for Terence Crawford. I think he's a tremendous fighter. But boy, it's just, boy, that's a big bite at the apple when you're jumping up 2 more weight classes after you just jumped up 1 weight class, your first fight at 54. Now you're surpassing 60, going to 68 against arguably the best guy in the division at 68. Not a tune-up.
Bob, you unveiled your pick super early and made me unveil my pick. Paulie, what's your pick?
Yeah.
My pick is going to be Crawford on points.
There you go. Those are the picks. But
Or because it's hard to get a decision on Canelo, Crawford to be robbed.
okay. All right. I'll
My pick is
listen,
my
listen,
pick-
listen,
my
listen,
five-star-
Paulie, that's
my
not a
five-star
thing.
bet-
That's
my
not
five-
a thing.
My 5-star bet is the
That's
fight
not a
goes the
thing.
distance.
There you go. That is very, very good. But another thing that happened in the press conference, we were wondering if it would come up. Dana White pressed a bit about wanting to change boxing, change the Muhammad Ali Act. He called the reporter an a-hole and said, make an interview with
Dana
me.
doesn't like to be put on the spot, especially for his lies.
Right. So
Made him uncomfortable.
Yeah. It was certainly made him uncomfortable. Chris, you said it. Boxing media is a little different. He's going to have to face these kind of questions at some point. A lot more of them.
Oh,
Dana was on his heels the entire time. He did not understand how aggressive boxing media was, and that he doesn't have the respect that he has at UFC events. You could tell that in the way he's speaking. You could tell the way he handled the mic. You could tell the way that the media handled him. They didn't care who he was. They went at him. They attacked him. And he was on his heels. He was not expecting that. Probably the guy hasn't been like that in probably 20 years. So welcome to boxing, guy.
But he can also start pulling credentials too.
Oh,
Yeah,
and he will.
yeah, he will.
And he will. Sean, love you, bro. You're a true journalist, and you're trying to do the best you can in this sport. I think that was awesome that you did that. You're never getting an invite to any of these things. It's super unfortunate because we have a completely biased media now developing in boxing. Sean is one of the best guys out there today. He's a good guy, family man, everything. Anything you say about the guy that's positive, he's there. He does the work. He lives the life. And he asks the hard questions, which on that platform probably wasn't the best idea, but I appreciate him. I tip my hat to him. Good job. But we probably will not see him at one of these again.
We will see him next to Lance Pugmire in the parking lot, next to the bus, doing his job.
You will see him on my podcast.
Right.
You'll see him on Sean Porter's podcast. You will see him on our shows on ProBox. No question.
Yeah. But this idea, Paulie, that you're gonna have to face the bullets at some point, whether it's at the press conference or somewhere else. The idea that once again, boxing media is gonna be less friendly. It just is what it is. Huh?
Yeah, it is. People are going to be skeptical because you're coming in trying to change.
Right, exactly.
And
new environment.
It's gonna.
I don't think that's it. I don't think it's skeptical. I don't think it was targeted at Dana. I just think that's how boxing media is. It's way more aggressive. Boxing is.
There's a lot of pussies in boxing
media.
There's a lot of ass kisses in boxing media that won't rock the
Apparently
boat to get credentials.
Apparently not. Apparently not.
I also thought
there's a lot of cheerleader questions tonight. I mean, come on.
A lot of cheerleader
how does it feel to be on this stage? How many times am I going to ask the same question?
Not towards Dana.
70% of nobody asked questions.
The cheerleader questions were for Canelo.
No, like half the questions were, how does it feel to be on the stage?
There were a lot of variations on that same.
It was like the variation of the same question over and over again.
All right. So guys,
please.
let's be honest. This format is a UFC format.
Yeah.
Where you have the media step up. That's never how boxing media has ever conducted a press conference. That was a UFC form of a boxing press conference, and it went the way it did. They're probably never going to do that again. It did not go well. They're going to go back to the original form, or they're just going to jam this down the whole whatever. It didn't go well. So that was a UFC-style press conference where you have media members step up, which has worked in UFC. Didn't work tonight.
Well, funny enough, when you talk about the overall structure of boxing, various promoters, Eddie Hearn, of course, from Matchroom, had his own comments in an interview about Dana White and the future of boxing. Here he is.
Dana White did an interview with PBS yesterday, and he has now said essentially that his side of this new thing with TKO and Turki Al-Sheikh, he'll be like the Contender Series to the ring cards. At least that's what it sounds. What do you make of all of this? It seems to have changed from what we first thought Dana and Turki.
It's what I said the league was. It's lower level fighters and young prospects who they believe they can build into big stars, to big pay-per-view stars. I don't think it works, but will it, these guys are very powerful, they're very clever, and I'm sure they're going to come up with something compelling. But in boxing, that's not a new format. That's been done before. We're all trying to build stars. Now, to do it in a league with some different kind of marketing and profile and storylines, yeah, maybe you can unearth a talent, but people want to watch the big stars fight. That's the reality. They want to watch great fights between people they know.
All right, let me start with you, Bob, about what Eddie Hearn had to say about, hey, look, we've seen this, Tuesday night fights, the idea Pro Box is doing a similar thing, the hungry up-and-coming guys, that's what TK is doing. We've seen that before in boxing. What do you think, Eddie Hearn, his comments about the new TKO format not being that different?
Well, obviously, boxing has been similar to baseball in a lot of aspects where you have single A, double A, triple A, but it's not the major, it's not the New York Yankees.
It ain't the game.
It ain't the game, but thankful Eddie's doing his thing. Just shout out to Eddie because he just signed Lanier Perot, my undefeated number 3 heavyweight in the world, so I'm happy about that. So,
I like that plug, buddy. My guy, check him out.
I'm happy about that. But definitely, yeah, it's the same format. You're going to put those guys in, and the cream always rises to the top. That's how he became world champion, probably. That's how Chris Algieri became world champion. You do your 4-rounders before you get into your 6-rounders, your 8-rounders, and you move forward with that. It's always like I said, it's a minor league system coming up, and it's the same format that has always been around.
Yeah, but the question,
in my opinion,
the question of who is going to be taking on Dana White inside the boxing space. Well, once again, same interview. Eddie Hearn had some comments about that.
Wants to be the CEO of boxing.
Almost as if he is with the CEO of the UFC.
Yeah, because they're trying to get the Muhammad Ali Act changed. You're not going to see me slagging off Dana White, not because I don't want to upset him, because I respect him. The one thing that I would really like at this point in my career is to go head-to-head with him and to take him on. I want to compete against Dana White. I want to prove that I'm much better than him as a boxing promoter. So I'm excited for him to come into the space. That doesn't mean we're going to fall out, by the way. Competition's fantastic. But you're not going to come into boxing and steamroll the game. It's not going to happen. Let's see it.
Well, Eddie Hearn, having no fear of Dana White, wants to compete with him. Dana White saying in response, Can't wait to go head-to-head with Eddie Hearn. This idea, Paul, we talked about a little bit earlier, that this competition might, in the long run, be a good thing for boxing, right? It'll make more headlines, and that competition will help the sport. What's your thought?
Yeah, in some ways, it forces the fights to be better. It forces you to, have to make the better matches so that people will tune into you and not sort of start to gravitate towards all into, one side of the sphere, so to speak, As far as I want to go back to what Bob said about doing what everybody else is doing, 4 and 6 rounders and whatnot. These guys, what Dana wants to do is creating basically a league, and he wants to have everybody fight each other. So you're not coming up the exact way of 4 and 6 rounders where you come up fighting opponents, then journeymen, the next champions, and then champions, and then and so on and so forth. You're basically putting them up against one another, and I know Dana likes to pawn himself off as an intelligent person in front of his idiot fan base, but in front of this fan base, you can't pull that off because this fan base knows a little bit more. That's already been done, dude. Eddie himself did this when he had the prize fighter tournaments. The prize fighter tournaments were one-night tournaments, actually, so it may be a hybrid of what Dana may want to do over a period of time, a tournament over a period of time, or whatever, a league over a period of time. But regardless, it's something similar. The prize fighter tournaments were fun. They were one-night tournaments, 3-round fights, whatever. And again, Dana may have a little bit different mindset as far as, he's going to make real fights, but he'll keep it in a league. Regardless, it's been done before, dude. To quote John C. Reilly in Step Brothers, it's been done before, dude. You're not thinking outside the box over here. It's been done before, and it also didn't go very well. Prize Fighter was cool for a while. Then there's a reason Matchroom went away from it. Then a company I worked with for a little bit, Boxer, started the same way. They started with those one-night tournaments for a while, and it was cool. And so again, it's been done before. It had already been done before when Boxer tried it, and it went pretty cool for a while, and then it went away. And because again, you start to sort of, realize that it only has a certain kind of ceiling. And you know what they both had in common? None of them created a world champion. None of them created even a contender, okay? They created guys that went to mid-level contention maybe, but that's about it, all right, bro? So with the whole, we're going to create a league, we're going to revamp the system, and then we're going to graduate them to Turkey. Bro, by the time they're done with that thing, nobody's going to want them anymore. You're going to have used them up, wasted them. Their promotability is going to be gone. And then you're going to just bring them up to Turkey with the big fights. And that's going to be your excuse to maybe underpay them or not use them. But it's got to be interest. You got to generate interest through this league. I don't understand how you're going to do it because, again, it's been done before and it didn't work the same way. It always has a certain level of success, but there's a reason why it got discontinued. Now, people may say, oh, Dana was going to try it in a different way. He's going to create a league, but it's not going to be a one-night tournament. It's still the same kind of conceptual thought process. You're creating a league, you're creating a competition against one another, and then somebody comes out of it. Somebody comes out of it. You're going to want to create your own belts. In Prize Fighter, they gave you a belt at the end of the night. At the Boxer tournaments, they also gave you a belt at the end of the night. I get it, dude. You're not doing anything that nobody else hasn't seen already. As a matter of fact, so there's actually probably boxing fans that don't even know that happened because that's how less popular it was. It was popular regionally. It wasn't even popular internationally. So the fact that this has been done before, probably a guy like Dana doesn't even know it's been done before. Because again, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a decent deal, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And you needed to move on from it. So I think that, Dana's business acumen, I think, is at least intelligent enough to realize that eventually he's probably going to have to also pivot a little bit. You may have certain ideas when you first come into a business, or you may have certain ideas when you go into any business venture. And a lot of times, if you notice, when you go into a business venture, you go in with a certain mindset or a certain plan. But a lot of times you got to pivot and you got to kind of adjust the game plan as you move on in order to be successful, or it implodes and is not successful. So I find myself thinking that as long as Dana stays on Turki Al-Ashik's good side and Turkey just funds the whole thing. But then you're just basically printing money at that point, right? So you can use whatever, you can do whatever you want to do. But I think that if it's going to stay in that business terms and they're going to be in good business and they're going to continue to work together, I think there will eventually have to be some sort of pivot move in this mindset, in this thought process that they have, where they think it's going to be this way. It's not going to be this way. Boxing is not that simple. Boxing has a history that was a lot longer than MMA, and things work a certain way in boxing. And yes, even the boxing model has changed through the years, but nonetheless, I do feel that as much as Dana wants to be the guy to come in and change it, I don't necessarily see that happening you know, or if it does happen, it's not going to happen so drastically as he thinks. You know, I think you're going to have the Eddie Hearns of the world who want to compete with you. You're going to have, you know, other situations where there is competition, and we say that's good. Competition is good. You know, in MMA,
all right, but Paul, you talk so long, I lose my fucking train of thought.
Go for it.
That can't happen. That can't happen. You went to.
I'm looking at these guys. I forgot you were here. You're on the screen.
Hey, Chris.
I thought of 37 points in the meantime.
Chris,
go ahead. Pick one, Chris. Go ahead.
You went to Stony Brook. You never lose your train of thought.
No.
Yeah.
School of thought, baby.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, it's late at night though. My brain's not. My brain's on 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. But in terms of what Eddie is saying about, you know, all the things he's saying, listen. I'm gonna punch at Eddie. He's attacking Dana White. Oh, if he wants to do this, okay, cool. You did that to Frank Warren. You get your ass kicked. You put your guys head to head, 5 on 5. You lost every fight. And Frank Warren was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to beat you 5 out of 5. And he did. So in terms of promotion, you know, Eddie's looking for low-hanging fruit at this point because Dana is new to this and he's trying to attack him, which makes sense. But in terms of everything that Eddie said prior to that, it was essentially what we said on a previous show. So guys, go to ProBox TV YouTube channel. Go watch the show that we did. What was that, Paulie? What was that, Jimmy? 3 days ago?
Yeah. Yep.
We said the exact same. We said the exact same thing that Eddie said. Yep. Yes. Oh no, even last week. It was a week ago. Exactly what Eddie said in that interview. We talked about at length. Yep. So I don't know why you guys don't watch ProBox TV. We're ahead of the game. Yeah. And in terms of
we know what Eddie's going to say before he even says it.
No. But listen, guys, everyone listens to us, so we're having an effect on everyone. So Eddie's saying that whatever is what it is. But at the same time, him attacking Dana White, he's picking a fight. Eddie picks fights with a lot of guys. He picked a fight with Frank Warren. Didn't work out that way. He thinks he could beat Dana. He probably can. But whatever. I mean,
he didn't like that Haney went to the Top Rank route to fight Norman, right?
Yep. Right. And starts trashing it. Like, he's just being a promoter. He does, you know, he's doing what he's doing. Eddie has a really good dictation in terms of the way he pronounces and says things. Because
that British accent.
He's fun to listen to. And slag off. I don't know what that means.
He's a phenomenal. Yeah, the slag off was a little weird, but he, you know, for us,
I don't know.
But
story for another
the
day.
guy speaks. Right? The guy speaks very, very well, and he puts it in a way that you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But like we said that a week ago, and him calling out Dana White, he calls out guys all the time, and he also says some crazy things that never come to fruition. So with Eddie, I don't know. At this point, the things that he says, I go to grain of salt. That's just my stance on that.
Well, you see there, no TKO, but we're okay with Jake Paul fighting Tank. That's from Oscar Carrillo. We're not okay with Jake Paul fighting Tank. We are a group of real boxing hardcores here. And yeah, we're not okay with kind of the freak show way boxing has gone.
That has to be a sarcastic comment, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But the idea that of all the things that could happen to boxing, is TKO the worst thing, considering the freak show fights we've seen? I'm not a fan of those either. Like, I'm not at all.
Yeah, no. Why do we have to go with one way or the other? Why can't we just have the boxing the way it always was done before that? Yeah. Before the Tank and Jake Pauls and before the Dana Whites coming into boxing. Yeah. You know, the old days where it was great, not that long ago. I don't know.
What I'm curious about on the broadcasting side.
I mean, yeah, we argued about Lamont Roach getting ducked instead
we did.
You know, for the rematch. I mean, who the hell's defending?
That's what we want.
Who the hell's defending Jake Paul against Carrillo? You all watch ProBox TV or not? Who the hell's defending Jake Paul versus Javante
None
Davis?
of us.
I don't defend Javante Davis for anything because all he does is duck opponents.
What I'm curious about, and you saw when we put up before, first time in years we haven't had any of the storied promotions, right? Top Rank, Queensland Boxing, Matchroom involved in a big fight like this. They're not. So a lot of this is on TKO/Dana White. One of the things I'm very interested in as a broadcaster myself, having worked for the UFC, having worked for Dana White, John Anik is doing the play-by-play with the unboxing blow-by-blow call. By the way, John Anik, fantastic broadcaster. Like him a lot. I think he's amazing. He's one of the best in the business. But this idea that it might be paced kind of like a UFC. One of the things that Dana White has been critical of in the past, which is true, you worked for Showtime, this idea that Dana White's been very critical about the way boxing has been paced in the past. He's like, man, you have 3 national anthems, a walks take forever. The idea that we don't get the action quickly. There's a lot more action in UFC fights. There's just less in between fights. The idea that it might be paced a little bit better, but it might also kind of look like and sound like a UFC. So, Bob, what's your thought on that broadcast-wise? As a fan, when you're listening, do you want it to still sound like boxing or sounding a little bit more like the UFC? Would that bother you as a fan?
For me, as a guy that's been in the sport and as a fan, as long as the guy brings the energy and the enthusiasm and stays true to who he is,
which Anik will for sure.
Yeah, then you're going to do the sport justice. Yeah. That it's real simple. Be who you are. Bring the energy, and give that. When you kind of you don't want to shit on things and we did it this way or with UFC a guy would do this or would just stay within the sport. Bring the energy and let me know when the exciting moments are, and that's what gets my juices flowing.
Yeah, I want to see how they pace this one too. Like, whether or not.
What do you mean by pacing? Like
Dana White has been very critical of Steven Espinosa at Showtime Boxing. He goes, yeah, the way they're paced.
Well, like if there's an early knockout, there's
you tap dance forever. I mean, it's just a nature for people who don't work in broadcasting. The way it works is you have X amount of time that you have to fill. All right, it's a 3-hour spot. You got to fill 3 hours or 2.5, whatever it is. If there's an early knockout, well, you still have to fill the same amount of time. People don't understand that.
How UFC do it?
They're just more fights. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there aren't
so
three,
basically rushes you out of the dressing room as soon as the next fight is done. Yeah, in boxing, it's been different in that you have a set time.
That's the difference.
There's more stars on the card, so it's not just the main event time. The co-main event also has a set time, and so
most fans don't know that.
Yeah. So in the UFC, again, Dana never prioritizes fighters, so it doesn't shock me. You might. They may push the guy out right away. Might be cold. It was a quick knockout. The guy might be cold. Doesn't matter.
Got to be ready to go immediately.
Going out. Yeah, that's so you're essentially like a swing bout the whole night. You in boxing, you're not going to make superstar fighters into swing bouts, dude. I'm sorry, that's never going to work. Or
you got
or
in
guys
MMA,
on the cusp of superstardom.
In MMA, as a fighter, when the fight before you was on, you were warm.
Yeah,
because he could get knocked, and the promoter goes, "Get there," and you're like, "Oh shit!" Yeah.
And I always took that approach as well in the dressing room, but. Because that was just I'm OCD, but
me too.
Nonetheless,
not going out there. Cool.
Yeah, but MMA fights are shorter. But
what I'm saying is
they're short.
You got to just drag it out quick. And in big boxing events, the main event, the co-main event, sometimes even the fight before that has a set time, dude. Like they're walking at this time. So
they all have set time.
So therefore, your whole TV schedule is there, whether the fight ends early or not. The fight ends early or not. Now, okay, you got to fill it with something else. Because those fighters are going to take their time getting to the arena. They want a set time from the day before already. What time they got to get to the arena? They're going to plan their day that way. You're not telling them 24 hours, bro, you just got to be here. And when the fight before you's done, you're just going out.
Paulie,
doesn't work that way.
We're
not treating star boxers like swing bouts. You pass the swing bout.
When you say them,
go ahead.
Please. When you say them, you're saying me because I was notoriously late to every single main event.
You're notoriously late to every flight. I've flown with you, dude. Sometimes I think I'm flying by myself. You're not gonna make it.
Is he a sprint to the gate?
This guy walks in like.
Have I ever missed a flight or a fight?
No.
Have I ever missed a flight or a fight? Zero times. But I just have a different way to go about it. I would walk through.
So you wouldn't work well with Dana White. You wouldn't see me. Maybe I could because I'm OCD and I got to be there early anyway.
Dude, I was warm.
I get fired. I get fired, bro. Because literally, they would be like, "Yo, you're an hour late," and I would step because listen, in New York, you can't drink or have anything going into the arena.
Mm-hmm.
I would wait till the very last minute and step over the threshold like this, and they'd be like, "Okay, cool, go take your piss, whatever." Blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm not waiting 4 hours before I fight with having no nutrition in my body. So I would walk over the threshold last minute possible. They're calling me, chasing me. You got to be here. Like, no, I'm the main event. The event doesn't start till I come here. So I don't care what you think. I'd walk over.
But a lot of times in a card like this, champ, it's also the co-main event too. You got Lester and Mbilli.
It's a different animal.
You can't. You're not going to treat these guys like swing bouts. That's not going to go well.
It's gonna be interesting. It is. It will. In my, because MMA is totally different. We like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it was an attorney ago when I fought, and Dude, I remember I submitted a guy in like 30 seconds, and the next guy was a friend of mine, and I walk out of the ring, and he goes, "You mother," because they went, "All right." Yeah. And he's like, "I wasn't warm. I saw you walk in there. You submitted that dude." And then I had to fight. Like, I had to run in there. I was cold. I was like, "Sorry, bro. You should have been ready, man." But yeah, that's the way MMA is kind of like that.
Pro box kind of just push them out, right?
A little bit. But we had to wait.
Pro box paces them good.
No, but they know that.
They
know that.
But that's the thing. But that's what I'm saying. You
knows
eventually graduate past that. You see, like, there's a lower
The Erickson
level.
Lubin fight.
Yeah.
Right? We had to wait a while.
Listen, I was talking about being a main event fighter where I'm getting a limo into the Barclays Center. We're going through an elevator coming down. That's a whole different
But
thing.
this is this kind of card. That's what I'm saying. So if you're gonna pace this kind of card in a UFC way, you can't treat guys on this level in boxing.
Yeah, Canelo,
like swing
Canelo's
bouts.
going in when he's going in.
Yeah, and even even the other fights, I don't know. I mean, you can try to set a new standard, but then they go to other cards, fight for other big promoters, and they have the same schedule, bro. It's kind of more convenient for them to do that.
I'm curious because as a fan, I have been like, let's say the co-main event's over, dude. I will go have dinner and come back, and the main event hasn't walked in yet. The pacing is just different. If you're used to MMA, MMA you can't do that. You might be able to use a restroom or get something to drink, but like MMA, it tends to be a lot less in between fights. I have finished a co-main event and said, "All right, I'm going to eat." I make myself food. I walk back. Oh, main event started because I took 15 minutes. That is going to be interesting to see how because Dana hates that. And like I said, I work for the guy. He hates that. But as you said, champ, like, can't make Canelo go in there any sooner than he wants to. So those kind of challenges, to me as a broadcaster, Bob, are going to be interesting. Like how they kind of meld these things together because I've worked for both. It's going to be weird as a fan.
They're going to have to come up with something with the highlights of the knock. You know what I used to like at the top rank fights? Before they got the crowd going, in the arena. They wouldn't show it in the thing, but in the arena on the big Trons and stuff, they would show the highlights of Hearns and Hager, and you could just feel the goosebumps. And maybe, you remember exactly. Maybe they should do some things like that to kill some of them voids if it's a quick knockout. Because to Paulie's point, you can't just push it. Lester Martinez, this is the fight of your life, and you got to get out there in 2 seconds right now, or so forth. But you could do it a little bit more like pro box, like you said, where these guys are coming up in that area. But once they get to this level, I don't think they could do that. But I think they could fill the void with some of them highlight knockouts and some of the past of what boxing is all about.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting show for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things I really did like about the press conference is there were a lot of legacy questions. And when it comes to legacy, I got the feeling, I know you didn't like some of his answers, Champ, but I liked Crawford seems to be a little bit more like legacy's on his mind than Canelo. I think kind of whatever you think about Canelo, you're going to think at the end of this fight, right? The idea that Crawford could elevate himself to, if he beats Canelo and walks off and goes, "It's been a great career, thanks." When you talk about greatest boxers of all time, he's top 3, top 5. I mean, in a storied sport, I think legacy's a little bit more on his mind, Paulie, man, on my mind.
Yeah. I mean, if he wins this fight. I know people hate.
Top 5. He'd be top 5 in my mind because
I know people hate the it's almost like blasphemy that anybody in this era could ever be the best ever.
We underrate our era.
We missed it. What are we gonna do? We missed it. Only in the 50s and the 20s and 40s they were the best ever. Now you
don't know. Okay, back in the Depression,
like anybody that we try to say might be the best ever now. Like it's like, what did you say? What did they all just come around 100 years ago and now they don't show up anymore?
Right.
I don't understand that, Especially now where you have, better science, better training, more advanced PEDs. You have all kinds of, let me say
it. Better EPO than they do.
Honestly, man, I mean, are you kidding me right now? Like, it's like it all came around in the 1920s. Are you kidding me? He wouldn't have beat Billy Bob Joe from 1921. Are you nuts? What do you mean, am I nuts? I don't know. I know what I'm looking at, dude. Right. I mean, I analyze boxing for a living, but I don't know. The boxing looks sharper to me now than it did 100 years ago. I'm just telling you. I appreciate those guys that will put the building
pioneers.
The building blocks. They made boxing what it is. Super love, appreciation, but I mean, I'll make the comparison with the UFC. I mean, what the UFC 1 to UFC now?
Oh God,
come on,
it's
bro.
a different planet.
What is boxing the only one that went backwards? Every other sport went forward. We went backwards.
How did we get here? What are we talking about?
We're talking about legacy. When it came to, it seems like legacy's more on Crawford's mind in the press conference than Canelo's. It does seem to really that he can elevate himself.
Like, you got to put him in the question as the best fighter maybe ever.
Pound for pound all time. If he beats Canelo, he's got to be in the conversation.
I think Usyk is in it now. Why shouldn't Crawford being in if he wins the fight.
Yeah, what do you think, Chris, about if he wins pound for pound greatness, he's top 5?
I think he's already in the top question for top 10. And with this win,
fair.
We're talking about he's nothing to lose. There's never nothing to lose.
Yeah, you can die in there.
In terms of his legacy for winning this fight, he's going to establish himself. He's going to do the thing that Sugar Ray Robinson tried to do and couldn't do. For me,
that's saying
how I look
a lot.
That's how I look at this fight. I look at this fight as Sugar Ray Robinson dared to be great early on, and he almost died doing it, and he fell short. Crawford goes out there and fights his ass off and wins this fight. I have it on par with Sugar Ray Robinson fighting Joey Maxim for the light heavyweight title, stepping up multiple weight classes, weighing way later, and just making it happen. He does the thing that Sugar Ray Robinson couldn't do, and that solidifies him historically as one of the best fighters who's ever graced this earth.
But you know who else did it? You know who else did it?
Roy.
You know who did it? Well, not Roy did it from heavyweight to junior middleweight, but you know who else did it in the similar weight classes? You know, you always make a great point about boxing math doesn't math. This is a great example of boxing math, not math. And Roberto Duran did it against Iran Barkley.
Iran Barkley.
After
yep.
Iran,
Roberto
Iran
Duran did it. Roberto Duran did it against Leonard too, by the way. He
And
jumped
he's a pound for pound
35
great.
to 47.
But I'm
He's
saying
a pound
this
for
big
pound
of a
great.
jump because Crawford was also a lightweight at one time, and now we're going super middleweight. What I'm saying is the boxing math not math, and in that Barkley had just knocked out Tommy Hearns. And we know what Tommy Hearns did to Duran.
Flattened him.
We know what Tommy Hearns did to Duran, and then Duran comes back and
The math
and
ain't mathin',
beats
bro.
Barkley. Exactly. That is one of the biggest.
math ain't mathin'.
That is one of the biggest examples of the math not math. And
Bob,
also,
The
Roberto
problem,
Duran
the
top
difference,
five?
Paulie, is Crawford's still undefeated.
Yeah.
he's just
But
undefeated.
Duran's resume.
We love O's, guys. We
I
love
know,
O's.
but Duran's
It doesn't
resume.
matter. We
Duran
love
had fought
O's.
Leonard. Duran had fought Hearns. Duran had fought Hagler. It's
It
tough.
won't matter. We live in a world of stupid people who care about undefeated records.
The one great thing about our sport is one shot.
Yeah, changes
One shot
everything.
I remember De La Hoya versus Hopkins. I talked with Paulie about that earlier. I thought that De La Hoya, man, he's fighting masterful. He's changed his jab. He's going up and down. He's in and out. He was looking great till he wasn't looking
There's
great.
always a chance for a walk-off home run.
And then all of a sudden, Hopkins kept getting a little closer. Bing, good night. And so that's the thing. Like I said, Crawford's going to have to be really aware of that night.
In baseball, you got to have enough runners on base for that walk-off home run. In boxing, there can always be a walk-off.
There could only be one, but you see, Nate here, Pro Box basically set the blueprint for Dana. Turk might have to watch Pro Box fights and now wants his own. Possibly, yes. We try to do it here at Pro Box TV, 50-50, all action. This is what we're about. But we're talking about the history. I put Roberto Duran top 5 pound for pound all time for what he did from 35 to.
I do too.
60.
Ken Buchanan in the 60s.
Yeah.
Think about it. You fought Ken Buchanan in the 60s, and then you go
Bad
beat
motherfucker.
Duran. And then you go beat Sugar Ray Leonard in the 80s.
It's
and Barkley in the
unreal.
late 80s.
A weight up.
And fought
Two weights
fought
up.
Joppy in like 2004.
Just a complete.
Knocked out.
And,
But,
you know the only, and the
but
only
by the
reason
time he ended his career, but was Joppy even born when Duran beat Buchanan?
you know what?
He was a heavyweight by the end of his
He only stopped fighting because of the car wreck. He
Yeah.
had that car wreck, and then he had the neck injury.
Oh, but he got
Louis
stopped by
Louis
Tom.
DeCubas Jr., who's my partner, is Duran's his godfather. That's how I know that. That's only he would probably still be fighting right now.
Well,
They could probably take a couple of guys too. Still.
let's take.
Take Mario Barrios. No offense, Bob. I don't
Oh,
know.
come on, Paulie, don't.
Oh, man.
I'll
Oh,
stay take
man.
Roberto against
Oh,
Barrios
man.
right now.
What I'm curious about, Chris, would you put a win over Canelo above the? I think the greatest accomplishment, one of the greatest in boxing history, was Roy Jones Jr. going up to heavyweight. Would you put this higher than that?
No.
Yeah, Roy Jones going to heavyweight.
No shot.
Yeah.
No shot. Roy Jones going up and beating John Ruiz was crazy. Crazy. Because he didn't weigh it like heavy. I think it was like 207 or 205, whatever. And John was a big physical
He barely got over 200.
heavyweight. Yeah. I mean, he looked great. He was phenomenally explosive and fast in 12 rounds. And listen, I say this over and over again. If Roy Jones Jr. retires after John Ruiz, he goes down as one of the best fighters, pound for pound, who has ever lived. But he kept fighting on, and he went back down to light heavyweight to fight Antonio Tarver, who's a nightmare.
Monster.
Beats him. And then fights him again because Roy is a real champion. Roy gave rematches. Roy fought people. But Roy had a lot of opportunities to step out of the sport and step out on top, and he didn't. And I respect him even more for that. But he hurts him amongst the casual fans who only know Roy for him after 2000. But if he stops, if he retires after John Ruiz, or even the first fight with Antonio where he scrapes by, I mean, we're talking about him as an all-time great. And he's already an all-time great. We're talking about him as like the best ever. So, Crawford beating Canelo, I think he's going to beat Canelo. So,
but
Roy
does he
beating?
Sorry, go ahead.
John is different.
But do you think Crawford lays him down if he wins? He says, we assume this is going to be it, but does he? Does he fall for the Roy Jones and I got one more in me, I got a couple more in me? Why doesn't he do what Roy Jones tried to do? Chris, tell me.
Maybe 50 million.
Yeah.
Reasons why?
That's a lot of reasons. That's good.
I don't. So
Roy Jones didn't need the money at that point either.
Hey, Chris,
I can't unhear what Robert said before. A year ago, he said, "I'm done fighting."
But Chris,
I'm only sticking around.
I'll tell you
if
this:
I get Canelo,
I think it depends on how. If he was to beat Canelo, how did he beat Canelo? If he had a pretty solid performance, I think he's trucking on. If it's if he squeaks by.
But Bob, he takes another year off.
Yeah, but if he squeaks, but I'm saying I know the money would be big if he squeaks by. But think about it: you're really rolling the dice. Now you're going down as a top 3, 4, 5 ever. You probably could start with endorsement deals.
You're making my point for me. You're making my point.
No, but I'm saying
Crawford's never getting endorsement deals. Nobody's endorsing. Nobody's endorsing.
After the Canelo fight, if he squeaks by, I think he'd be done.
I'm going to tell you guys a story, and I'm not going to use any names. It's a fighter you know. It's a fighter you've seen. If you're an MMA fan, a fighter.
I'm not an MMA fan. So
I know. All right, whatever. Won a big fight. It was a championship fight, and he was in the back. He was getting ready for the press conference. He had his head down, and a producer went up to him and said, "You ready for the press conference?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, he didn't understand why he was so upset. And he goes, "You ready for the press conference?" "Yeah." "Yeah." "You ready to go out there and talk to everybody?" He goes, "Yeah." And he realized, you won the fight. And the guy picked his head up and went, "I won the fight?" He goes, "Yeah, dude, you won." He didn't remember the fight.
Wow.
And he thought he lost because he couldn't remember the fight.
Wow.
And the producer said, "You won, dude." And he goes, and he got all happy. He lifts his head. He goes, "I won." He goes, "You won." He was about to go to the press conference thinking he lost because he couldn't remember the fight.
Wow, that would have.
That's why I'm not using any names here. You guys know. I like what you said, Bob, about sometimes you take that hit and like, dude, I don't remember rounds 6 through 9. And you go, why did that guy retire? He may have won, but he goes, dude, I got my bell rung, and that scared the crap out of me. And we've never seen, I would say, since Yuriorkis Gamboa, where you remember Gamboa started out hot and Crawford had to kind of tame him a little. We haven't seen that since. If he takes a 168-pound punch and goes, dude, I don't remember the middle rounds, that is frightening. And guys win fights, and you wonder why they retire. And I'm telling you, sometimes it's, dude, I can't walk the right way anymore.
Foreman Lyle. Look at Foreman. He retired.
Foreman Lyle.
It took him, and he's one of the strongest-minded people you'd ever meet. It took him 10 years to come back in the ring because he admitted, he goes, shit, I almost lost my life in there.
Jimmy Young, outboxing. Yeah. But when fighters retire, you don't know why. Guys, you don't know physically what these fighters go through. And some fighters get hit and go, yeah, I got through that fight. But God, I've never been hit like that in my life. I don't want to go through that anymore. So, Bob, I understand what you're saying. Where he might win and go, still, I don't want to take this damage anymore. Especially against a guy like Canelo, who can finish you and hurt you, Bob.
Definitely, and like I said, I think Canelo, in as much as Bud has on the line for his legacy, and he does, he'll be top 3 all time. To me, just in my gut, Canelo has to not just win. I think he's got to go out there because this is a little guy coming up. I think he's got to dominate the fight. If he really wants to cement his legacy, would it be a great win on his resume? Sure it would. He's got a lot of good wins on his resume. But the caveat is people are going to say, well, it was a littler guy coming up. So to me, he's going to have to sell out a little bit more, do a little bit more, and really put it to him. And if that's his mindset, if Bud can't hit lightning on a bottle and really keep him honest from that 6th round on, he's going to be in some serious trouble. Because, like I said, I've seen Canelo up in Big Bear and Triple G go to war, before they ever spot. And it is in Canelo. And if he does that, and that's the mindset on that line, like I said, yesterday he was a quitter. Well, today he ain't a quitter tonight. He was a quitter yesterday, ain't a quitter today. Yeah. And if his mindset is really to have that killer instinct and I'm really going to go for it, I actually think Bud's going to be in a world of hurt.
Holyfield said, in sparring, Bo always got tired. And I'm waiting for him to fight to get tired. And that dude never got tired. He came in shape, as you said, for that trilogy. He brought out the dog, and he goes, I was not ready in that first fight for a Riddick Bowe that wasn't getting tired. So to your point, a similar kind of thing where I may have sparred with somebody, I may have seen somebody, what they're bringing this time is special. But let's talk about Roberto Duran, Manos de Piedra, Hands of Stone. In the fight with Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray said, I couldn't believe, Hands of Stone. He hurt me every time he touched me. He goes, smaller guy. He goes, hit me on the gloves, it hurt. It hit me in the arms, it hurt. It hit me everywhere, and it hurt. It made Sugar Ray respect him. Does Crawford have to at least get that respect from Canelo? Not knock him out, not hurt him, but like as you say, and Lamont Roach said, he goes, I don't have a lot of knockouts, but I hurt guys. I don't put him down necessarily, but I hurt him. They know I'm hitting them. Does Crawford?
I think it can come from the accuracy. Maybe you get his attention. I'm not sure you can quite hurt. Canelo's got a great chin, but Crawford has that snap power, the accuracy. I think with the accuracy, you can get his respect, sort of maybe ring his bell. Once you hurt him, maybe ring his bell. Like, whoa, I didn't see that shot coming. I don't think the comparison, though, Jimmy, is Duran and Leonard, because that's at 147. That comparison would come from Crawford and Spence. Crawford and Spence. Crawford had been a lightweight. Doing that to Spence, I think that cements that question, is with Duran doing that to Leonard. I think Duran doing that to Barkley. I think he dropped Barkley. He had Barkley down in that fight, and I think that if you're able, and if you've seen that fight, Duran's accuracy at close range was really, really sharp. Good. So I think, I'm not sure that Crawford's can quote unquote hurt.
Duran was a lot busier.
Can Canelo hurt? Canelo concussively. But can he be sharp enough to
can he do enough to at least get respect?
A sharp shot here, the quick sharp shots.
I disagree, guys. I think Crawford can hurt him.
I think he can hurt him.
I don't think
I think the jab.
I mean, anybody could get hurt with a punch. Obviously coming, but I don't think it's going to hurt him.
I think personally, my ticket isn't. I mean, maybe I'm being biased because it was my boxing style, but I also can't remember a fight where Canelo dealt with a jab in a very good way. Like I said,
well, I'll tell you this.
But Crawford's not a prolific jabber.
But he can be when we've seen it when he wants to be. Roy Jones wasn't a prolific. Yeah, but Roy Jones wasn't a prolific jabber either, and he jabbed the shit out of John Ruiz. So like a guy who has that
he's motivated.
It was
that athleticism.
John Ruiz fought like this. So
and Canelo is also very heavy on his feet.
No. Crawford, Canelo has great head movement and shoulder rotation. John Ruiz is not that kind of guy.
But Canelo doesn't get out of the way of jabs.
You
got great head movement, but every time somebody jabs at Canelo, they can't.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
He counters
the shit out of him. Bivol jabbed the shit out of him. Golovkin in the rematch jabbed the shit out of him. Everybody who consistently stays consistent on a jab.
You mentioned two of the best jabbers in the world, guys that threw a lot of jabs. Golovkin literally has the highest jab percentage.
Well, what I'm saying
in boxing.
If you stay consistent with the jab,
Crawford does not.
Yes, but Roy Jones didn't either, and then on the Ruiz fight, he did that. That's what I'm saying.
Roy Jones is Roy Jones, dude.
Okay, but the athleticism of Crawford, he's also giving you a jab out of both stances. Bob, go ahead.
But he had a guy who's flat-footed and square and slow and way bigger. Crawford, Canelo's not slow. Canelo's not slow.
I can't see him hurting him.
John was never fast.
No,
John was never fast.
One thing I will say though is this:
respect. Though he can't. I don't think hurt me that it's hard to hurt Canelo. You got to get his respect though.
I'll get to this point. Like when Robert Guerrero fought Floyd Mayweather, he goes, he never hurt me one time in the fight at all. He goes, I thought he would be a bigger puncher. He was the bigger guy than me. He goes, he never hurt me ever. He goes, but what he did do is every time he hit me, it was just like a beast, like you say, sting like a bee, and it was just enough to freeze me before I could get back off. Yeah. If Crawford can do that to Canelo,
disrupt him.
Just enough to just just
But
enough to hesitate.
I cannot compare
then I think
Crawford's
he's got a good chance.
jab to Floyd.
No,
I
I'm
can't
just
compare-
talking about him punching. Just even with his right hand, left hand, when he's throwing a power punch, it's got to be enough to at least sting
Floyd
him
wasn't
and
a big
freeze him.
jabber, though.
It's got to be enough to freeze him. If he can't freeze him, I think he's in big time trouble with Canelo. I really do.
He's going to have to do things to disrupt that power, Chris, to that point.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Not necessarily hurt him, but disrupt the power. Get him a little bit off balance. Is that a key for you, Chris?
But Jimmy, how do you disrupt and win against pro Canelo judges? Because I've looked into the judges. I've looked into the judges. The judges are pro Canelo guys. I do all the homework. They are pro Canelo judges. It might be a pro Turkey wants Canelo Crawford to win. You see him holding hands all the time. Yeah, he might want Crawford to win. The judges are pro Canelo. I don't know the size of the ring.
And the crowd. And the crowd. The judges will be
press conference.
They'll be subjective to
we saw
that
the press
too.
Conference. Yeah, correct. And there's some reports recently coming out from judges who are talking about how they are actually human and
of course
referring to how they are affected by everything leading up to
Well, think
fight.
about this, Chris. If you're judging a fight and you're on this side and the guy's on the other side, and even in the Pacquiao fight with Barrios, there was times on this side he throws a little flurry, doesn't land one punch, but the crowd's going nuts. If I'm on this side, I got to figure, well, shit, he must have did something. Who do I score that section of the fight for? And I got to break it down minute by minute, round by round. Yeah, I know exactly.
That's boxing.
And so that's part of that's part of life. That's why we play.
I know, but let's stop making excuses for judges. Because if that was the case, they would accidentally rob the A side at times and give it to the B side, which never happens except unless
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna tell you one thing.
I'm always the A side robbing the B side, so it's not genuine. It's not genuine errors here.
Hey, Paulie.
When I said that's boxing, I wasn't saying it was fair.
Oh yeah,
let me
it's susceptible to corruption. I get it.
I'll tell you this though. On Pro Box, every time I've came in a Pro Box, I've never seen so many damn B side guys win fights.
No,
those fights are so
fucking
Bob.
50. No, Bob. No,
we don't have B-sides.
But also we do a lot of fights in Florida.
Great fights.
We do a lot of fights in Florida, and the judging in Florida is not corrupt for the A side, which I like. But unfortunately, the judging in Florida, no, that's the problem. In Florida, it's whoever goes forward. Even if they eat 100 punches around, whoever's going forward wins the fight. Doesn't matter. That's the problem in Florida.
Thanks for letting me know that.
It's ignorance and not corruption. So it's like pick your poison. You know, I like that they don't favor the A side just for everything, but then you realize when you watch long enough, you're like, man, these guys don't even know how to judge. So it's frustrating.
A lot of angles to this fight. It's going to be a lot of fun, but leading up, remember the weigh-in is tomorrow. We have our pre-show, we have the weigh-in show, we have post-show, just like we did today. Remember, #boxing scene today. We have a ton of guests tomorrow and Saturday. Fight night, doing the watch along. A ton of guests, including the reporter who asked a question of Dana White, got shut down, got called an a-hole. We'll have him on tomorrow. His opinion.
Sean Tell.
He's going to be on. So we are going to be able to talk to a bunch of boxing experts about the upcoming fight. Stay with us the next couple of days. You've been fantastic. We were #1 on Twitter for this. We appreciate every single one of you, for everybody behind the scenes, everybody on the panel. I'm Jimmy Smith. We'll see you the next couple of days right here on Boxing Scene. Don't miss it.